and you're the bite of the bark, hanging out in the shade and popping up in bouquets. You start off as a sport and you dominate the modern floor. The portobello ain't tall, but it's the belle of the ball. And milky grows in a bunch, and it goes in your lunch. Even if the king oyster doesn't grow in the sea, it cooks like beans, savory. Oh, mushroom, ain't nobody who can touch you. I said mushrooms, finest fungus on the menu. From forever to the present, so the luminescent ain't no wookie hooky bookie like a super tongue guy. Always a fun guy, always a fun guy, always a fun guy. From forever to the present, so the luminescent ain't no wookie hooky bookie like a super tongue guy. You might be surprised at just how much we're alike. Half our genes are the same. I'm talking DNA. We hold a lot of water, potassium and copper. If you dream of being a vegan, it's me, burger top. Oh, mushrooms, ain't nobody who can touch you. I said mushrooms, finest fungus on the menu. From forever to the present, so the luminescent ain't no wookie wookie bookie like a super fun guy. Always a fun guy, always a fun guy, always a fun guy. From forever to the present, so the luminescent ain't no wookie wookie bookie like a super fun guy. For a forage in the forest to work, get snooping for a truffle with your nose in the dirt. If you're picking for your kitchen, making meals or dessert, you can find them in the wild all over the earth. The magic ones are magic, the poison ones are tragic, and even if it's yummy, doesn't mean that you can have it. Oh, fun guy, always a fun guy, always a fun guy, always a fun guy. So forever to the present, that's the ain't a rocky, hooky, boogie like a super fun guy.
We could be best friends forever.
Hi, everybody. I didn't listen to that before. I mean, I could tell it was going to be a little bit boppy just from the cartoon, but wow, some of the lyrics. Awkward. Gosh, there's already so many beautiful people here on a Sunday afternoon in Australia. I just had a visit from two of my friends who live up in the northwest of the island, and they'd been in Hobart for the weekend and popped in, came out of their way to pop in and have a coffee with me before heading home, which was lovely. And I was going to go live a little bit later, and I went, no, I'll just go live now because I want to react to Grizzly True Crime covering this case. A few of you mentioned she'd covered it in a live I did last night. They got rudely interrupted by, copyright. So a fair use disclaimer before we start this one. I hope she doesn't strike me. Hey, it's all out there. And I've held Grizzly in very high regard, and I think she usually does a really good job covering stories. But it was a bit of a shock to me when I listened to it this morning, how on point it was with part 4 of our series, where I've actually I've pinned the link to part 4, where we specifically talked about mainstream media feeding web sleuths and the damage that they can cause. And unfortunately, some subscribers of Gazella's sent her links from the very tabloids we were exposing. Some of you guys were with me for that live. We looked at a Daily Mail article and ripped it to shreds. And she actually quotes one of her sources as being from the Daily Mail. No, don't do that. In fact, some of our community was so rattled by it, they even put comments under her video, under her live. So I'm going to react to it and also have a look at the comment section so that you can see what happens when a creator who's incredibly good at what she does, but unfortunately has turned to some pretty average resources and also has twisted the timeline, and it's made a very big difference to the way the whole story has been presented. I'm just going to mute my phone. And it's just to prove a point yet again that if you're not using credible sources, you can essentially create a frenzy and all the people on YouTube who like to consider themselves sleuths and better educated than the investigators run with it, and it gets out of hand. And when you've got a really big channel like she does, we're talking thousands of people buying into the narrative that was presented because she was using tabloid media while covering this story. So yeah, Gazella, I really am, I wouldn't call myself a fan. I don't like saying that about YouTube, but I respect you. I consider you one of the better true crime channels on YouTube. I'm just a bit bummed that this is your take on this story. And once again, where's the presumption of innocence? Anywho, I have very many beautiful people to say hello to. My girl Waffles, 3 lives in a row. You're out of control, my girl Waffles. Hi, Miss Kay. We've also got Aussie Tad, who finally can make a live. Yep, that's the benefit of Sunday afternoon, I guess. The song was a bit clever. Hi, Humanimal. Mushrooms are more closely related to the animal kingdom than the plant kingdom. Fun fact. It's a fungi fact. It's awesome. Your ex was in a band called the Fun Guys. There's a great mushroom doco on Netflix. Okay, you might have to check that one out too. Mel Mack, hello. Hi, Francesca. Yeah, the poison ones are tragic. You can't eat them even though they're magic. Yeah, darkly hilarious. But look, I don't have an intro for this channel yet. Well, I do, but it's as boppy as that. So, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It was going to be a boppy start. Of course, there is a serious aspect to this story. 3 people lost their lives after eating lunch at Erin Patterson's house on the 29th of July. It's incredibly sad. 2 of them have been farewelled. In fact, the third one may have been too. I'm not sure about that. They might be waiting till Ian is well enough to attend that. Not really sure what's happening with Heather, but Gail and Don have been farewelled, and there's also a public celebration of life memorial coming up as well. But she is painstaking. She's very, very thorough, and that's why I'm surprised, because she's so good at a timeline. But she actually does something in this live that I think has critically impacted the way it was all presented, and it just wasn't a smart thing to do, and you'll see why shortly. But yeah, she's definitely one of the, well, you'll be seeing it shortly, Francesca. I would put her in, the top 10 true crime YouTubers on YouTube, but I couldn't believe it. But then I also know that Australians sent her media links, and she relied on that. And unfortunately, she talks about a lot of things that aren't even verified. So it's problematic. You quoted the Daily Mail too. In what regard? That's a bit cryptic. Or what did you comment as well, Miss Kay? Or she is usually excellent, yes. They definitely don't know how crap a current affair is, but they definitely should know how crap the Daily Mail is. I mean, come on. You can't even open that website without turning off your ad blocker. If that doesn't tell you that you're on a bad site, then nothing will. Piers, you've got an ad blocker. Can you please turn it off so you can read riveting bullshit? Sure, Daily Mail. Here we go. So we're going to just kick straight off with reacting to it. I've got a lot to say. So, and it's quite a long live, but it's gripping. And she automatically had me offside with the very first shot. How long does it go for? It's only an hour and 15. It's not that long. I mean, it'll take maybe an hour and a half to react to it if I keep myself brief and don't repeat myself. If I've made a point and she says something again and it's the same point, I might just go ka-ching without rehashing it again. I'm editing a video at the moment, and I've realized how easily distracted by chat I am, and B, how much I go off on these random little segues. Nothing wrong with that, but in terms of editing something, so I'm just sticking to the point, I'm cutting out more time that will end up in the actual video. And it's taken me probably 4 hours so far editing it, and I've finally got to the end, and I've only managed to shave 40 minutes off it. So I've got to go back to the start and just be brutal and just get rid of huge chunks. You're not a fan of Grizzly anymore. Pardon me. Hit the thumbs up. Thank you. I don't know why people trust her implicitly, but they do in this one, because like I said, we'll quickly look at her stuff and then we'll move over to her comment section, because it's just, the irony is not lost on me that part 4 of this series was looking at a Daily Mail article and all the unverified bullshit in there. Remember the mysterious unnamed Dr. L and all of the hideous stuff in his article? And then there was another article citing all of these friends and people who'd commented, but none of them were named. Be very wary of that sort of article, people. I don't mind being seen as a conservative, sticking to the facts, only sticking to verified facts, verified sources. The presumption of innocence is in the foreground the whole time. Now, look, if Erin Patterson ends up being charged and convicted, we will fucking go to town on her. But until then, she's got the presumption of innocence. And although there's a few things in the story that you're like, there's also a lot of other things that you go, well, that other thing that made you raise your eyebrow is kind of explained away by that thing. There's definitely some dodgy elements, but we've got to remember when we are looking at these cases, and if we're putting the presumption of innocence in the foreground, we have to put ourselves in her shoes. And she's not someone, I don't have a friend like Erin. She's not someone, it's not a personality type that I'm instantly familiar with. So things like analysing her behaviour while she's being interviewed and stuff, as far as I'm concerned, is pointless. Grizzly also talks about the behaviour panel and how they've analysed it, but I think it was either Francesca and I or Aussie Tad, can't remember which one, but we were saying like how dangerous it is for the behaviour panel to be seen as these amazing experts when they don't actually have the baseline. They constantly talk about the baseline and looking at someone's behaviour, and then when they're being interviewed about a crime or whatever, are their alarm bells ringing because they're behaving differently? But if you don't have any footage, like we don't, of Erin being herself prior to this incident, we don't have a baseline. We don't really know what she's like. She could be as awkward and odd as she is in that interview. The baseline example that always sticks with me is Johnny Depp in the Amber Heard case. And he was very slow and considered, and a lot of people were saying that he was acting, and yet so many body language experts said, no, he's like that in all these, look at all these interviews of him. That's his baseline. He thinks before he speaks. Every word is considered. So they weren't alarmed by Johnny's behaviour in court, while other people thought it was all contrived and Johnny was acting. But we don't know Erin's baseline. So how can we honestly analyse the interview of a woman who gets home? She's lost 3 people that had lunch at her house, and one of them had only died a day before or 2 days before she did the interview. She's got a throng of media in her driveway, cameras, microphones, reporters, God knows how many networks. I think I've seen 5 different ones that have been shown on different networks in Australia alone. So you're looking at a minimum of 10 people and a shitload of electronic equipment out the front when she gets home from doing her shopping. And she's grieving. And if she's innocent, she's fucking in shock. And if she's guilty, then she's going to be a bit weird too. Like I don't see the point in people analysing her behaviour without knowing what she's normally like. Okay. Hi, Cassie. You're here for it. The Daily Mail was releasing info in a big case. Idaho for a potato. Maybe since then people think they're on the money. Like I said, if any website that you need to go onto, if you have to turn off your ad blocker, it's not a credible source. It just isn't, ever. I will speed her up. Yes, that's a good idea. Oh, can I ask a question? Was it? Hang on. Francesca said, Cassie, ask away. I have a question for you. Okay. I have a friend whose little boy is collecting postcards from all over. Would you be willing to send him one, Tori? No need to put your address on it. I'd love to. I'd absolutely love to. Cassie, have you got a pen handy? I'll give you my email and you can send me the address and I will do that. I'll send one of a little Tasmanian devil or a wombat or something. So my email address, it's actually in the about section on this channel. It's smoothcriminalchannel@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to do that. Yep, innocent until proven guilty. That's the foundation of our legal system and our judicial process. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And they're actually, Aussie Tad, you'll be interested. There's a couple of comments from Aussies. There's a few. There's a lot, actually, under Grizzly's Live. Oh, everyone in the area thinks she's guilty as sin. You wait till we go through the comments. They're going to piss everybody off. But I've got to react to her first so you can see why people are commenting the way they are. It's pretty fucked up. Hi, soulmate. They're possible, but we don't know yet. I know you've got a lot of opinions on it, which is awesome. But I keep thinking too, like one of the cases I'm going to be covering on this channel very soon, I've written the script and in fact I've got some in my fridge ready to go. Australia was gripped by the strawberry sabotage story. A disgruntled worker putting needles in strawberries that were distributed all over the country. Quite a few people ate them and got injured. And what if there was a disgruntled Woolies employee who had foraged for a few mushrooms out the back and chucked them in just see what happens? If we're going to speculate and come up with wild theories, why isn't that one to throw in the mix? But someone also might have just tampered some. Look, who knows? We don't know anything. I'd like to speculate with the facts. But yeah, I mean, we can all sit here and come up with all kinds of crazy theories. I love playing devil's avocado. But if they're not based on the facts, and so far it's all the police have gotten very tight-lipped, and you've got all these idiots going, there was all this media frenzy and now it's gone quiet. Yeah, it's gone quiet because the cops actually told the public they were going to remain tight-lipped on the investigation. And the only stuff that's come out since it's of any credibility is the fact that Don and Gail have had their funeral, a private family funeral. They're buried together in a cemetery. And the Daily Mail zoomed in and took photos of all the messages on the cards, on the flowers, on the eerie grave, according to them, an eerie grave. I mean, seriously, if you think the Daily Mail's a credible source, when they are literally taking photos of the gravesite and describing it as eerie, fuck off. The behaviour panel was so off. They're often great and interesting. However, in this case, we don't have her normal. And also, I'm sorry, but the behaviour panel says, and I'm sure it's in the bit in Grizzly's Live, that it takes 2 days to make a beef Wellington. You reckon? I don't know if it does. Especially if you're a competent cook. 2 hours and 30 minutes from start to finish from BBC Good Food. So this guy's like, I've studied gastronomy or whatever. Well, 2 days to make a beef Wellington? Nah, doesn't. Behaviour panel won't hold up in our court. I said that in the comments section of Grizzly. Good girl, Miss K. You're out there too. I know Lindy Lou said a few things as well, said something at least. Yeah, I'm not a fan of cameras. I don't even know why I came up when I go live. It's quite bizarre. You're going to marry Johnny one day. But see, soulmate, I don't know. I don't know what I can say to help you let go of that thought for the moment, because she has spoken to the detectives. They just haven't told the public what she's told them, other than she bought the button mushrooms at a supermarket and she bought the dried mushrooms a few months prior at an Asian grocery. That's all the public's been told. The police are investigating it. They know a lot more. They've probably been in the car with her to Waverley to find the shop where she bought them from. She can tell detectives stuff. There's just the detectives aren't telling us what she's telling them. inside her gate. Yeah, they were on her property, I know. I trust the cops will find stuff if this was intentional, and I trust they're doing all their homework as we speak, and I agree 100%. I totally trust the cops. This story is just making me repeatedly think of what Lindy Chamberlain was put through. Like if Azaria Chamberlain's tragic death and the story of Lindy Chamberlain and how fucked up trial by media and now social media is, to me, now any story, and Erin Patterson is another one, I'm like, remember the Lindy Chamberlain debacle and how much time that innocent woman spent in prison because she was basically convicted in the media before it even went to court. I mean, there was a police bores up and all kinds of other stuff that happened as well. But again, presumption of innocence is right at the forefront. And until the police put information out and we have more facts to talk about, then we don't know where they are with their investigations. We know we know less than Americans know. Like, even with the Idaho 4 case, we all probably know 5% of it, maybe 10. Australia, it's even more tight-lipped than that. And it's good to be curious and ask questions, but you've got to constantly go back to what are the facts we know so far. And one thing we know so far is the police have said to the public, we're keeping tight-lipped on this. We're not keeping you updated on further developments. We are investigating it. So until then, go about your days, people. Yes, but we're going to be talking about that too. I'm more than happy to do it, Cassie. So yes, please. In fact, I can type my email address in case you didn't get it. I'll just pop it in here now. Oops. There she blows. Yeah, and people can have opinions, but I mean, and look, I've said this so many times on this channel. If you guys all came over for dinner tonight and we had a beef Wellington, which is a delicious dish in my opinion, and some cheeky reds, and we were talking about the case around this dining room table, sure, let's go to town. But on YouTube, I feel like I have a responsibility. And if I'm going to be calling out irresponsible YouTubers speculating and feeding all these online sleuths with scandalous bullshit, sensationalistic information using unreliable sources, then I've got to stick to the facts. And I always will. And the presumption of innocence is always going to be forefront in my mind because I can put myself in her shoes. Imagine if she's innocent. Imagine if she didn't do it. Imagine if there is some horrific explanation for what happened. And all the shit she's already been put through. And all of these people online all just ripping her to shreds. And then imagine if that was happening to you. Imagine if you had people over for lunch and this happened. You'd want the presumption of innocence floating around in the forefront, wouldn't you? Or would you be happy with hundreds of people on YouTube ripping you to shreds? And even when down the track an investigation comes out and the conclusion is it was just a horrible, horrible, horrible fuck up somewhere along the way and you're completely innocent, how many of those people on YouTube are going to apologize to you after going live for months and months and months, hours on end, ripping you to shreds and all of their thirsty followers all having you hung, drawn and quartered? How's the rest of your life going to be whenever somebody punches your name into Google and all this stuff comes up accusing you of murdering people? Opinions are great. Everyone's allowed to have opinions are, we're all entitled to our opinion, but it doesn't mean our opinions are great or good. People are entitled to opinions. It doesn't mean that they're not shitty at times too, or wrong. No, but they could look similar enough if a couple were chucked in a box. I'm gonna actually, I think I've made my point. I want to get on with the reacting, if that's okay. Oh, you're gonna send postcard too. Bless. Yeah, it does match the death cap poisoning. Hey, Bristol. You've sent it already, Kazzy. Good work. Thank you. They may well do, soulmate, and we'll be live chatting about them when that happens, if it happens. No, Lindy didn't serve her baby up to a dingo, but look what happened to her and how long she spent of her life with young children in prison. The kids weren't with her. Well, true, and we could also be talking about how the police fucked everything up at some point. But again, it's patience is probably the most important thing, I think. Have I missed saying hi to anyone who's come in? I'm scrolling down. I just realised how way behind I am. But yeah, I would just have a think about. Well, I'm like you, my girl Waffles, and when you are presenting something and the presumption of innocence is in the foreground, in my view, it needs to stay there until something changes. But there's also shitloads of innocent people in prison. There's a lot of guilty people walking around in our communities, but it's just one day at a time. I think that's part of the problem with the way the world is now. Everything is so immediate entertainment, immediate this, immediate fast food, blah, 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 that people have lost the art of patience. And when you're following a crime story as it's unraveling, you've got to be patient. The toxicology reports are still a couple of weeks away from even potentially being back in Australia. So, yeah. Let's bring up Grizzles. Erin could buy her. Well, she's definitely got money, yes. But here we go. Instantly, Grizzly got me offside with this map. And I've got fair use down below. That'll protect me, won't it? That little scrolling ticker. But instantly I saw this and instantly I was like, fuck you, Grizzly. I've got it on a weird thing. Hang on. Where's the there we go. Click the wrong one. That's better. Hello, Tasmania. Where art thou? How rude. Even though it means the map will be a little bit smaller on your screen if you'd left fucking Tasmania in there. You don't just leave a state of Australia off the map, especially a little heart-shaped island at the bottom. So I was instantly like, and she's got the little red dot to signify where Melbourne is, but yeah, she's got no map of Tassie. God, I reckon there's 260 Asian groceries in Tasmania. I'd be surprised if it's that few. Apparently there's one in Leongatha, so Tasmania hoop. Yeah, fuck all of y'all. Fuck all of y'all. All right. So I'm going to let this play for a while. I'll start interrupting when I feel I have something important to say, and I need to interrupt too because of fair use. But I didn't change my logo off because we pretended to be the Australian controversial drama community last night. So, oh no, that's not the one. Where's my little? Here we go. Up here. It's up here. There. That one. Yay. Guys, I'm going to be doing. I can't not cover crime and crime creators and stuff like that because I enjoy it. So, but I also want this channel to be really focused on crime and cooking and food crimes and scam baiting and stuff like that. So a channel that I created because Tasmania Calling for a while was Tory and the ACDC, the Australian Controversial Drama Channel. And at some point I must have created a channel as a backup just in case. And I still had the login for it. So I've basically started uploading and moving all what I'd put in the crime category is now over on the Australian Controversial Drama Channel. And let me just get the link for that. I'll actually swap it out with the link that's currently pinned because the one that's currently pinned is episode 4. where we discussed how bad mainstream media are and how quickly people are just like, you know, basically guilty until proven innocent. Okay, Casper, happy Sunday, mate. Well, soulmate, you can say that, but I the other night when I was live, I tried to Google the one that I go to, and the one I read out first isn't the one I go to. It was only because the next one down had a photo. I'm like, actually, no, it's that one. And I go there a lot. And it doesn't have an English word in its name. And I don't know how to pronounce its name. I don't know what the characters stand for. I just know the street it's on. So, yeah. Yeah, the Australian Mushroom Growers Association of Australia are really doing they're going hard with pro mushroom PR because of how much this case is affecting people. But I mean, I've got some mushroom soup in the freezer and it's so delicious, and I am actually going to have that for dinner tonight. I've been a tiny bit wary of the mushroom, but I think it's time to crack the lid off that soup and have it for dinner. You subscribe, thank you. And I'll just jump over to YouTube and pin it because I'd really love you guys to jump over there, because if you're into the crama, I'm just waiting for YouTube chat to catch up so I can pin it. I'll just unpin the current one. It's still loading. There we go. Okay. Hey, slow down. Pin message. All right. So yeah, if you like me reacting to JLR and taking the piss out of Bullhorn Betty and clipping the glare when he's drunk and all of that sort of stuff, the crama will happen over there, and I'm going to try to keep this channel a bit more focused. Still going to have heaps of fun here, but I've had a few new people join because of some cases I've been talking about, and none of them have been snarky. They're just surprised that while they're listening to us covering cases, I continually refer to YouTubers and stuff they've never heard of. And I kind of thought that it makes sense to move all of that away. And I was saying this last night, if you guys ever mention a YouTuber that you want me to react to or stuff in a chat when I'm on this channel, I will make a note of it, but I won't be distracted and start chatting about that person in chat. I'll put them on the list of people to react to or look into later. And the benefit is that other channel, the Australian Controversial Drama channel, over there, eventually we'll get a community page and you can leave comments already under videos. I've got about 5 up, I think, or 6, 5. And I've already got 29 subscribers. Whoop, whoop. And 30 now. And you can put comments under videos and things like that if you want me to cover certain things. But I'll be migrating all of that sort of stuff from this channel and from Tasmania Calling all over to ACDC. So, oh, you're doing mushies too. Oh, you like the magic ones, Casper. You've got a punnet of mix, including the black fungus I have for dinner tonight. Delicious. Jamin, well, Humanimal, I asked the other day, he's having a bit of a breather from YouTube, a bit of a break, but we do continue to send Joman our love. We miss Joman. All right, so let's get this going. But yeah, I'm already pissed off because there's no map of there's no Tassie on the map, and frankly, Gazella, I think that's just bloody rude. And if I ever cover a story in Europe, I'm going to remove the Netherlands. They'll be gone from the map. Or if I do any South African stuff, if I do Oscar Pistorius, I'm going to take South Africa off the map too. Please do, Humanimal, because, yeah, even Finn misses him. I'm so polished. I'm polished? Really? Okay, thank you. We're already half an hour in and we haven't even started this. Come on, guys, we're going to be live. Doesn't bother me. It is a beautiful day out there, and I've been to the gym this morning and I've had my friends visit. I would probably like a beach walk a bit later, but we got plenty of time. Let's go. I'm over on Grizzly's channel now too, so I'm not reading any of the chatter for the moment.
Please note that this content.
That's kind of impressive. I need someone to do that for me. I want people to make intros like that for every live I do. Who's going to do it? Hey, Jenny Jones. Oh, little Sunny. Actually, before we continue, let me just give you a gratuitous Sunny shot. Do, 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 do. There she blows. There she blows. When my friend Kim got here, I said, if you get down on your knees and near the ottoman, she'll kiss you on the nose. And she did. And Kim was like, oh. I agree, so mate. The dehydrator is one of the things in the story that it's like, But like I said earlier, everything that you kind of go, there's a bit of a, So yeah, the dehydrator, dodgy as fuck. But taking some of the beef Wellington to the hospital to have it tested, like if you're really trying to cover your tracks, and like I said, we don't know this chick at all. We don't know what she's like. We've seen a little driveway interview. That's it. Some people would flip the fuck out if your ex-husband's there going, did you use a dehydrator to poison my parents? Maybe some people would race home and chuck it out. I don't know. But if you're concealing evidence by getting rid of the dehydrator, why are you also offering evidence up to the hospital to test? Food for thoughts. All right. I'm over back on the Grizzles. Hang on. I need to put her back on the screen. Let's go. Fair use. Fair use.
Content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share.
Oh, yeah. Could you do that for me too? Thanks.
Hello, everyone, and happy Friday to you. Welcome back to another live stream with me, Gisela K. This is Grizzly True Crime.
Oh, my God. I just checked chat. You guys are insane. I mean, you're all thinking it through. And like I said, this might all come out, but I just can't go that road yet. You'd certainly want to put a mark on your Wellington if you had half of it with poison mushrooms and the half not. You'd want to know which end was the good end and which end was the bad end. But again, when we hear stuff about this story and we go, that sounds dodgy, she said that she served up the plates and they got to choose their plate. So how do you moderate that? If you had one good bit for you to eat and they all had dodgy bits and you put all the 5 plates out and they chose their plates, do you play Russian roulette? Like, we got to think outside the square a bit, guys. But like I said, if it all comes out that she's guilty as fuck, well, let's have a celebration party that she's been caught for this. But for this channel, I have to put facts first. It's just the way it is.
Thank you so much for being here, especially if you are from Australia tuning in, because I know for you, it's probably very early in the morning. This is a case that we'll be looking at from Australia. So welcome to all my moderators. Thank you so much for everything you do. Welcome to all my patrons. Hope you enjoyed my little mini podcast episode today. And welcome to all my YouTube members as well. Nice to see you too.
I'm still being distracted by chat. I agree with you, Him Animal. Definitely could have been in a sauce, and she just didn't have the sauce on top. Absolutely. There's many could haves. It's a riveting story. Don't get me wrong. Like, you guys are all fantastic with all the angles you're going on. And like I said, if we're around my dinner party with a glass of red, let's do it. I just won't do it on this channel. But you guys can. Go for gold.
Ebby, you say much love. Thank you so much for being a member for 4 months. If you haven't yet, please like this video and share it so that others can know we are live. If you share it to Twitter, you can use the...
Right, this is the last time I'm addressing chat because I don't want to be doing this live for 9 hours. I'm only relying on the facts that we know that have come out from the police statement. Now, she's put out a statement in response, and you can take some of that with a grain of salt. But what we all perceive is based on the facts and then things that we've read, and not necessarily on great sources, listening to other people talking about it. All kinds of things influence the way we think. Yeah, and look, if she chose not to have the gravy, that's the obvious explanation for sure. And hopefully, as stuff comes out. But Humanimal raised the gravy last week or the week before, and that to me is the most likely if it was deliberate, because of course she's going to rock up to the hospital with the beef Wellington. She knew there was nothing wrong with the beef Wellington. But the beauty of this story, despite the tragedy of it, is that Ian Wilkinson survived it, and he is going to be the key witness to all of this. Very interested to see what Ian Wilkinson says when that comes out, because he was there. We weren't. It's going to be a doozy. It is a doozy. That too. Well, the kids weren't there though. They were fed it as leftovers at a later time. But anyway, let's get back to, well, if they were at the movies. But we'll get to that shortly, because a lot of the things in her statement that everyone's going, well, she's changed the story. The things that she said can be verified by the cops very easily. Very easy to verify kids being at the movies, for starters. Anywho, I'm sticking to Gazella for now. You guys are distracting me. I'm not very good at... Whoever said I was polished, you've got to be joking. I have the attention span of a nit. I get easily distracted. I love this community. I love the diverse thinking in it. And I love the fun too. So let's make sure we have some laughs at the end. We'll laugh at some of the comments because they are ridiculous. Anyway, here we go.
Hashtags that I used in the description box as well. And then what we're going to do today is I've got a presentation ready for you. We're going to look at the press conference. We're going to look at the interview, okay, of this suspect. Not arrested. Just the police have named this lady as a potential suspect. So we'll be looking at her interview with the media, which is very interesting as well. And let's do a bit of a deep dive, shall we? So today we're going, as I say, all the way to Australia. Don't know if you guys are there locals in chat. Have you ever been there? I've been there quite a few times myself, to Perth, to Brisbane. I don't think I've been to Melbourne. I can't remember now. But yes, beautiful country. And what a story this is. What a sad story this is.
It is indeed a sad story. I just want to... Now, this is the last time I'm addressing chat. Miss Kay, you keep mentioning the 9 Under investigation. I've watched that. Why are you talking about the woman who explained Erin's behaviour in the interview and that she didn't see it as being suspicious at all? This is the thing, the takeaway. But you're right. I mean, there's all these questions, but we don't have the answers. The police aren't putting information out, but it will come out in due course. But yeah, I've watched the Liz Hayes show and listened to it. And again, people cherry pick stuff because there was someone on the panel who I can't risk getting struck by playing it. But there was a behaviouralist on that panel who didn't see anything wrong with her behaviour at all, or was playing devil's avocado, and everything she made sense, as far as I'm concerned, regarding the interview. Just as much as people watching the interview thinking it's dodgy as fuck, the version of none of this is suspicious was just as compelling to me.
Rando from Iowa, thanks for being a member for 9 months. You say, love my grizzly fam. So nice to see you as well. Okay, let's quickly find my presentation that I've got for you here.
We love a statement flat at Habit, but we also
I just have to mute the ads. I'm going to move my YouTube Premium to this channel and take it off Tasmania Calling.
Yes, okay. Now, I hope I pronounced everything right. You know,
It's
I was
okay.
able
I got
to.
it wrong too at the start, Gisela.
Okay, so we are going to Leongatha in Victoria in Australia. It's 85 miles, which is about 136 kilometers from Melbourne, Australia. You can see the little red pin there. And the population there is 5,876. That was taken in 2022, but basically it's a small town, okay? Quite a big case, small town. Paula says, hi, Gisela and the mods. Hello to you. Okay, so there's just some pictures I found of this area, Leongatha, Victoria. Nice little place. Nice beaches nearby as well. There's a lot of dairy farms there, I believe. Cute little boutique stores. Very quaint, very nice. Okay, so this is Erin Patterson, 48 years old. And she says, and I've already, just put in bold in different colors how many times she says I, and that you'll see throughout any of her interactions with the media or any statements she makes. It's very much a me show, which is always a bit of a red flag, right?
Before I continue, did she just say there's nice beaches near Leongatha? Aussie Tat. Hey, Lindy Lou. Oh, your comment's going to be featuring soon. Well, at the end, we're going to look at the comment section. She just said it's got lovely beaches. I'm sure of it. Hang on. I mean, this is just being pedantic. No, we won't bother about it. This live will never end. Let's go. But this comment about it being painted as an evil witch, the media is making it impossible for me to live in this town. I can't have friends over. The media is at the house where my children are at. The media are at my sister's house, so I can't go there. This is unfair. I agree with her with all of that. When you look at people like Bullhorn Betty, it's not just the media, though, in other parts of the world. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there are some sleuthies sleuthing around that town too. And again, if she's innocent and all of this shit's going on, it's pretty hard to handle. And if she's guilty, well, we'll be like, well, serves you right. But imagine that. You just, this little frumpy suburban housewife, and the next thing you've got everyone hanging outside your house with cameras and stuff. Dinosaur rock beaches plus nice sandy beaches. Oh, an Inverloch. Okay. Yeah, great. That just surprised me. I was like, really? For some reason, I was picturing it being quite inland. I mean, I know like Venus Bay and everything you can get to, because one of my best friends from school lives in Venus Bay. But it's not like me. Like it's, at the end of my street is what I was saying. I just didn't know how long it would take to get there. Like, how long does it take to drive there? I guess the definition of nearby is relative, I suppose.
So she said, I have been painted as an evil witch, and the media is making it impossible for me to live in this town. I can't have friends over, because that's the priority, right? The media is at the house where my children are at. The media are at my sister's house. So
see, now, right from the start, Gisela is really, really anti-Erin. Why wouldn't she want to be around friends when 3 people have been at her home and died because she fed them a meal that was potentially laced or cooked with poisonous mushrooms? Who do you want around you when people you love die? Your friends. I don't know why. Gisela, right from the start, is very much hang this woman, hang the witch. She is.
So I can't go there. This is unfair. Very childlike, huh? Like, this is not fair. What is going on here? You know what I mean? Like, oh my word, okay. Very serious. I don't really see.
Well, if she's innocent, it is unfair to have this. She can't go anywhere. She's got the media outside her house with the kids in the house. And, like, it kind of is, Like, I'm totally being devil's avocado. We've got Gisela, the little devil on our shoulder, and I'm the little angel on the other shoulder.
I see a couple of red flags. That's all I'm going to say. Lenny says,
There's plenty of red flags.
And Lenny, thank you so much for sending me local news articles. Those were very helpful as well. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, whoever
and Lenny,
sent
thank
them,
you for always sharing all my things.
whoever sent the articles sent nothing from a really credible media outlet in Australia, from what I can gather, because she quotes her sources, and we've got a bit of news.com.au in the mix. They so credible, and Daily Mail are two that I remember her talking about. There may be more.
There on Twitter. I really appreciate that too. Okay. So here we go. Now on Saturday, July.
Oh, and I just want to say Lindy Lou's comment is precisely on that topic too. You might want to think about your sources. Might want to look at some credible. I just have to take my scarf off. I'm getting toasty. The sun is warming up my house. Meows. Yeah, Lindy Lou's comment was actually on that. All right, let's go. We've got a lot to react to.
29th of 2023. 48-year-old Erin Patterson, a stay-at-home mother of two, her kids are high school age, invited her ex-husband. They're actually separated. They've apparently been separated for a number of years. I'm not sure exactly how long. Separated, right? She invited her estranged husband and former in-laws over for lunch. Why? So I did quite a deep dive on this because obviously the why is going to be pretty important, right? This was intended to be a church-mediated lunch to sort out the children's visitation rights with her estranged husband and his family. And apparently...
Now, I don't know where she got that from because it hasn't come out of the cops' mouths. But if it is a verified fact, if it turns out to be, then the comment that she made about the ex-husband commenting about the dehydrator and how she said she was terrified she'd lose visitation rights or custody, then it kind of makes sense if this is actually correct, what Gisela just said, and I don't know where she got that info from, then it kind of backs up Erin's thing about she was really worried she was going to lose custody. Don't you reckon? Just a thought.
Some friends say, there's rumor, that she wanted to get back with her estranged husband. And this was a meeting to discuss that because...
Well, just on that...
times myself
to
sorry. Perth, to Brisbane.
Fuck.
I don't think I've been to Melbourne. See cut of meat?
Just on that, soulmate, her ex hasn't spoken publicly at all. There was a Facebook post from last year. There are alleged friends, unnamed friends, referred to in tabloid media, but Simon Patterson has not given a statement.
Often eye fillet, coated in chopped button and wild mushrooms. Okay, so that's how that's normally made. Beef Wellington is a traditional British dish that is said to have originated in the 1800s after the Duke of Wellington won a victory in Waterloo. The celebratory dish became a classic that rose to popularity as a fancy dish at dinner parties and holidays in the mid-1900s. Traditionally, the dish centers around beef surrounded by pâté, mushrooms, and some form of ham that is then wrapped in puff pastry and baked in the oven.
Delicious.
So... that is what she decided she's making to have those in-laws, the former in-laws, over.
Mm-hmm.
So now here's something to know, okay? Erin is apparently an experienced wild mushroom forager. That was...
Okay, stopping there. Not verified anywhere. Hasn't come from a credible source. Again, a friend, an unnamed person who's spoken to the tabloids apparently said this. That's it. Not a verified fact.
That was one of my questions, you know? Yeah, she's apparently an experienced wild mushroom forager.
According to who?
She reportedly told investigators that she bought dried mushrooms at an Asian grocery store months earlier. Of course, it had to be way back. She says way back. She doesn't know when. She also doesn't know exactly where. There's actually an Asian grocery store right there in this little town, but she's like, no, she went to Melbourne to buy them. Some store over there. She just doesn't know exactly which one.
And see, I don't find that weird either, because she did say it was in Waverley. She owns a property in Waverley that they were selling. She goes to Melbourne quite frequently. In Waverley, stock up. I've got dried mushrooms that I bought. Well, actually, I don't. I had a look the other night, but I do often have dried mushrooms. If I see them, I grab them because they last forever in that little cryovac pouches in your pantry. But that being said, when I'm making lunch for friends or whatever, I always buy all the ingredients fresh and I get new mushrooms. I wouldn't be serving up shit that's been in my pantry for 6 months, but that's just me. But, yeah, it's not weird for her to have been in Waverley. In fact, she grew up in Waverley too. It's quite possible that's where her childhood home, whether that's still in the family or not, I don't know. She's got quite a few properties on her little list, on her little portfolio. So I don't find that weird at all.
Now, in April of 2023, local health authorities in Victoria, Australia had actually released a warning about death cap mushrooms. And we're going to talk more about that later, which are extremely poisonous mushrooms.
Okay, so did anyone read that? Aussie Tad, are Victorians in the chat? Keen to see. Did any of you see that the local authorities releasing a warning about the mushrooms? We've got foragers down here. I don't read the daily paper because it's Murdoch. I wouldn't give him a penny of my hard-earned minuscule wage. But I would imagine if I went on a foraging expedition with experienced foragers, there would be discussion of the poisonous mushroom. But did anyone actually see that warning go out there? I mean, I would imagine heading into mushroom season, it's a good thing to do, but does it necessarily mean, I mean, is she implying that Erin read that and was like, aha, 'tis the way I shall kill them all? I don't know. Jump in my car and grab a bullhorn. I might just do that. What, head to the Netherlands and bullhorn outside Gazella's place? I'm just so surprised it gets worse. Like she's ready to crucify Erin for sure. And I know a lot of you are too, and that's fine. I will be a devil's avocado till the day there are some charges laid, and then we'll get on with discussing the trial and all of that good stuff. But until then, I'm giving Erin the presumption of innocence. It's a hard side to be on, but that's the beauty of this channel, is that I will take the hard side. I'll take one for the team. You guys can all be in there going, burn the witch, burn the witch. But for now, I'm going to be like, leave her be. This was just a terrible mistake. You didn't say anything. Yeah, okay. You can digress in chat all you want, Humanimal. That's why I love this community so much. I'm only going to stop and chat when Gisela says something that I can go, but that's not verified. That's pretty much the sort of reaction I'm doing. But it's just so interesting because her subscribers sent her the links to tabloid media who have basically already convicted Erin, that this is her instant, that the start of this live, Erin is very bad news in Gisela's mind.
They are not native to Australia and are usually only found in Victoria, which is where we're at in this area. They're only found in Victoria and the Australian Capital Territory.
Now, I find that fact a bit odd because there be land between the state of Victoria and the ACT. Like, is there some sort of imaginary border around the ACT that stops them growing in New South Wales? I heard her say that when I was driving and I was like, I need to check that. Because how? Why are they restricted to those two separate blocks of land? Where do death cap mushrooms grow in Australia? Found across the Canberra region. It's amazing a few politicians haven't fallen off the perch. Okay, so the Canberra region is the only one that came up at the start of my search. Very common in Canberra. They They like to pop up under oak trees. The marble death cap mushroom grows in Western Australia in the Denmark region. What does the Australian National Botanic Gardens? I just wanted a list. Sydney doesn't have a known problem because Sydney is a largely oak tree free zone. But I would have thought maybe rural New South Wales. Don't confuse the death cap with the straw mushroom. Where is it found? The death cap is the Australian National Herbarium website that I'm on at the moment. I'm not going to drop the screen down and pop it back up. Their map of Australia includes Tasmania, but common in many Canberra suburbs, well established in several Melbourne suburbs and in some Victorian country towns near Melbourne. And death caps have also been found in Adelaide in July 2008. Apparently they might like a eucalypt as well, but they're doing further study on that. So yeah, it doesn't seem to be. I guess maybe New South Wales is oak tree friendly. I mean free. I don't know. Oh no, I've got a map. It's got little dots on it. Well, no, soulmate, because they're just saying acacias and gum trees, they're seeing the death caps happily flourishing there too, but they need to do more study. I'll read that sentence out. There is some evidence of it associating with eucalypts in Canberra, but this needs further study. It has been reported from eucalypt and acacia plantations in East Africa and also in Morocco. So they're going to be checking out whether they are also enjoying those trees in Australia. We learn something new every day. All right, back to Gizela.
Okay, but now why do I list that is, maybe she was reminded of just how poisonous these were in April.
It is everywhere in the media, not just the Daily Mail. Agree, Miss Kay. And I don't know why people didn't send her links from credible news outlets. Well, as credible as you can get. It is the media after all. But Daily Mail, ABC, not a hard decision.
April 2023. Again, I'm speculating. She's not even arrested or anything. But we will watch this case closely and see what happens.
So we.
Who was invited to this lunch? So Simon Patterson, her ex-hubby, or actually estranged hubby. They're not officially divorced from what I understand. They just separated. He was invited. His two parents were invited. Don, age 70, and Gail, also age 70, Patterson. Okay, they were invited. Ex-father and mother-in-law. And then Gail's sister, Heather Wilkinson, and her husband, who was the pastor, right? He is the pastor, Reverend Ian Wilkinson. Heather is 66. She was 66. And Reverend Ian Wilkinson, 68. Gail's sister and her husband. These people were all invited to this lunch. And as I say, it was a little bit of an intervention. Like, we need to talk. Okay. So, Erin's estranged husband.
Well, I don't know if it was an intervention, because usually an intervention's organised and the person that needs the intervention is invited and then they all do a little circle and go, we need to talk. They went to Erin's abode. She's very thorough with all these slides and everything. The benefit of having, a full-time YouTube gig, and you can put all of this stuff together. I envy you, Gizela.
Husband. They say amicably separated. Simon could not make it last minute, so he was not at the lunch. Now, pay attention to that detail. Details are very important in this case because she says things that are opposite to what family says, what friends say, what the police say. She says other things.
And this is where it gets really dodgy to me, this live. And for those of you who have who already have watched it and commented as well, It's where it's really problematic, because the thing about Simon not attending last minute came out of the mouth of, again, an unnamed friend. And I don't think it's responsible to put so much importance on these articles from tabloid magazines that don't cite their sources and don't name people. Why is that person taken precedence over a statement that the suspect wrote, obviously with the assistance of her lawyer, and released to the ABC to rebut some of the things that were said in the police conference? Why is this unnamed friend who said Simon dropped out last minute? Because in Erin's statement, she said, no, he actually cancelled attending it the day before. But Gisela keeps going back to this last minute thing. And it's like, why is this mysterious friend not named or speaking out? Why are they just appearing in tabloid publications and not in the ABC reporting on it? These are the questions people need to ask themselves, and they don't want to, because everyone loves the goriest story imaginable. And again, if Erin did this, we will go to town on her. Don't you worry about that. But for now, I've got to be your devil's avocado.
And she changes the story all the time, so you got to keep up with it, okay? So he said, like one of his friends also said, he said last minute he had something else to go to, okay? Maybe it was really overwhelming for him, or maybe he's like, man, let me just give them all some space to have this talk. Maybe he didn't want to be there, right? But the friend said last minute he had to go somewhere else. But she says in a statement that it was actually the day prior that he said he's not going to be there. So that's interesting as well.
But it's interesting that Gisela's implying that Erin's the bullshitter and not the mysterious friend. It's bizarre to me how quickly, well, it's not bizarre. This is showing how quickly the flames of speculation get lit and then spread around YouTube. This is a perfect example.
Erin's 2 children, high school age, were also at this lunch. Pay attention to that, because she also changed her story there. But the police have said that, right? But they were served different meals. She apparently said that they were at the movies and not there. So she thought it was really smart at some point to release a 5-page letter to the, like as an official statement to the police anyway, and that did not go very well.
And that's not correct. That's not correct. Erin's been hounded by the media. The police did a conference. There were things in the conference that were said that weren't accurate, like the kids going to the movies. In the police conference, the cop said the kids were at home but had a different meal. Remember way back when the story first broke and the press conference, and the cop was like, the kids were there but they had a different meal, and we were all like, well, that's fucking dodgy, because it kind of is, right? I mean, unless you say you were feeding a sauteed chicken dish and your kids had nut allergies. I mean, you wouldn't be doing that in your kitchen if your kids had nut allergies, but you know what I mean? So that was something right at the start that everyone was like, ooh, dodgy. Interesting. She didn't eat it and neither did the kids, in fact, what was put out there at the start. But the thing is, she put the statement out, and it went out through her lawyers to the ABC, who are one of the more credible media outlets in the country. And again, it's media. You've got to be a little bit woody-woo with them. But Daily Mail, ABC, it's like this, right? And the point of that statement was to clarify things that were already out there and to give the media some answers and information. It wasn't provided to the police. The police came out and said that her statement had nothing to do with them or their investigation. So Gisela's twisted it. Now, I don't know whether, I'm not insinuating in any of this live that what she is saying is deliberately misleading. What I'm saying is she's relying on sources that are not remotely credible, and they're tabloidy. And if you stick to the police statements, and they're very tight-lipped now, so there's nothing coming out from them, and you stick to reputable or the more reputable media outlets, like there's nothing that's come out from the ABC in the last week and a bit, except for the funeral of Don and Gail Patterson and the memorial. That's the only thing that's ever been mentioned by them. But the tabloids are churning shit out every day. Think about that article we looked at in part 4 of this series, where someone put out the most horrific descriptions of how they would have died. Like, it was hideous. And then the death wall. The ABC didn't put anything out about the death wall because it doesn't matter. It's not relevant. I mean, we can all dig and find all kinds of random shit. But it sucks because she's read these shitty sources and then putting a little twist on it, like that's what she gave to the cops, when she didn't. And the cops actually spoke out about that and said it wasn't for them. It was released to the media to get the media to, well, the police didn't say to get the media to piss off or back off, but that was what Erin's lawyers, that was the whole point of it. Anywho, let's keep going.
Because it conflicted with everything that had been said. Anyway, so she said, no, the children weren't there. They were at the movies. And then later said, okay, they were there, but they ate a different meal. Erin is the only adult who did not get sick from the lunch, but she claims to have gotten sick later.
And there was a mention of the kids being there eating a different meal, which was in the original police conference. But I also just wanted to say, Erin's statement, that's a classic example where she said, no, the kids were actually at the movies, but they were also given beef Wellington as leftovers later on, and I removed the mushrooms. But you can verify very easily that the kids were at the movies. That was the point I made earlier, that a lot of the stuff in her statement could be very easily checked by the cops. I don't know why we expect the cops to get absolutely every tiny detail accurate when they do a press conference. And quite often the cop that actually does the press conference isn't actually the one that's been doing the bulk of the work. There's usually a team in the background. And it's quite possible that the cop, when he said, oh, the kids were there, but they ate a different meal, that was a fact or a detail that he had made a mistake with. Like, that's possible too. And the fact that Erin felt she needed to put out a statement responding to some of the errors in the conference, that's why she said, no, they were actually at the movies. And you bet your bottom dollar the first thing the cops said to her was, okay, show us proof the kids were at the movies. Not hard to prove. Got to buy tickets, CCTV footage of them coming in and out of the cinema, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Later, from leftovers or later or whatever. And she said she was taken to the Monash Medical Center in Melbourne by ambulance, which investigators are saying isn't true. We'll watch the press conference and you'll see what I mean. They're just like, no, man. Simply Laura says, Grizzly, I can't thank you enough for these clear presentations. I'm a visual person. It is my pleasure, Simply Laura. Me too. I'm a visual person, so I'm glad it helps. Okay, so here's some more insight into what a friend said. A friend said they went to her house for a mediation to talk to the family. Simon was supposed to go there for lunch, but he pulled out at the last minute. Otherwise, he would be...
And there's the last minute thing again. Hey, DWS, I'm not sure if I said hello to you before, and have I missed anyone else? So maybe a few more people watching that haven't commented, but g'day groovers, anyone that's watching and listening and not commenting. You would trust Better Call Tor. Bless you, Miss K. You love Charlie. You're talking about Charlie Bazina. Okay. But she keeps going back to the last minute thing. And again, Erin in her statement, she's like, no, it was actually the day before he cancelled. He wasn't coming. But she's, again, repeated the comment made by the mysterious unnamed friend quoted in the tabloids. It just bugs me. Gizzle's got a big channel. She's got a lot of subscribers. And we won't necessarily watch all of this because there's bits at the end like the behaviour panel and stuff that people, if they want to go and watch it, they can do that. I'm just trying to point out once again how quickly the speculation fires are fanned. And I just think we have to be a bit more responsible. Like, yeah, we're just YouTubers and we're not necessarily qualified and we're telling a story, but I don't know whether I'm so conservative and cautious because I'm a lawyer and I've worked in criminal law in particular and I've represented defendants. I don't know if that's why, but it's becoming few and far between that YouTubers are being responsible. And the problem is that they feed these online sleuths who then go offline and start rocking up at places. Look at what happened with Nicola Bulley. Like, people were caught tiptoeing around in backyards with little headlamps on. You've got the Bull and Bettys of the world standing outside people's houses, Molly Golightly, JLR. And it emanates from these creators doing it. Like, people are like, oh, that's just down the road from me. I might get myself down there and do myself a bit of sleuthing Watch me solve the case. The police are taking their sweet time. I'll have this sorted and solved by midday, and off they go. And this is what bothers me. Like, where's the responsibility? People are going to start getting hurt. Innocent people are going to end up in jail, probably. Guilty people are probably going to walk free. It's a fucking nightmare. And we're watching it unravel. You've got to think things through. I can be such a chatterbox and get myself into trouble all the time. So YouTube is quite risky for me in that regard. But I think through my lives. I work out the point I'm going to just keep sticking to and drumming it into you. And you're probably all going, yeah, we got it, Tor, 20 minutes ago. But I have to stay focused. I've got to be really mindful of what comes out of my mouth. It just takes one person to hear me say something and boom, off they go. And the next thing you know, one of our community members is being arrested outside a crime scene. It won't happen on our channel. Our channel's great because even with all the wild speculation and stuff, at the end of the day, we're not going to, well, I hope none of us are going to go offline and go for a little snoopity snoop. But when you've got a channel of this size and you're covering stories all over the world and you've got subscribers all over the world, I just think there has to be a level of responsibility. Like, remain neutral if you can. Don't feed these people because some of them are absolutely batshit insane. Look at Bull and Betty. I mean, seriously, we don't know who's watching us. You got to be careful.
In that deathbed too, the friend said last week. The people who died,
Hey,
and we're getting
Nicole.
to that, Gail, Don, and the Wilkinsons were talking to them because they're heavily ingrained with the church and they wanted to make sure that she was right to resume a relationship with Simon. She was basically petitioning to get back with him, and the family didn't think it was a good move. They basically didn't.
And I don't know if that's the case either. I don't know if she was petitioning. Like, these notes are fascinating to me. Where have they come from? Because even in her statement, she said when he got sick last year, she reluctantly nursed him. I mean, it was her ex-husband, a estranged husband. Where's it been said that she was trying to reconcile and get them all back together and happy? It wasn't in her statement. Where's this come from? And, the family didn't think it was a good move. Like, all of this is making people go, she did it. She killed him. She wanted him back. They said, no, fuck you all. I'm killing you now. Like, this is the scenario that is being fed to her audience right now.
Didn't think that she was good enough for him in their eyes. This wasn't just a lunch. It was an intervention with the pastor as a mediator. That's why this lunch happened.
And yet none of that's from a credible source. None of it. I haven't read any of this in any credible source. I haven't heard it come out of the cops' mouths. It's not even in Erin's statement. And if you think she's a lying sack of shit, fair enough. But the fact that it's not even in her statement, like, in terms of the list of what I'm paying attention to, Erin's statement is actually above tabloids.
So, interesting to note, the insight from a friend. Sadie, welcome to Grizzly.
The mysterious friend. This mysterious friend is getting more attention than anybody else. I don't remember Gisela being like this with other cases. I always thought she was thorough. But I guess because I know this case inside out, we've been with it from the start. It's glaringly obvious to me how bad this is. Now everything she does, I'm going to just be like, I mean, mind you, I haven't really heard her discuss it. She's not covering cases that I'm interested in, but until she brought this one up. But is she always like this? Like, oh, you rewatched the live last night. I'm so bummed about the Brittany Higgins one. God, that was such a great live, and then it all went boom. I'm going to write to Channel 7 and ask them for permission to use their interviews because they're so good. But the other thought I had was I might, depending on what Channel 7 say, I might just post the links on the community page, suggest everybody tries to watch them, and then we'll just have like an open panel discussion after everyone's had a watch of them. That might be the way around it. Everyone wants mushrooms. Absolutely. Ian Wilkinson is a very important witness to all of this, soulmate. Hey, out of Handmade Dolls and stuff. How are you? All right, Ski. Let's go. We're 12 minutes into an hour and 15 live. All right, let's go. There's a few comments I want to make, and then I probably won't go through the whole thing, but there's something Gisela does that really pisses me off because it totally changes the way you look at this story. And then her subs fall for it. And I don't know why she did it. For someone who's so pedantic with timelines and everything else, she does something that I think is really irresponsible, and it's coming up.
The supporter. Van says beef Sketchington. Yes. Oh my word. So now we have some of that inside as well. Okay.
Bali and Lombok may seem like dream destinations, but they are a nightmare.
Oh, that makes me sad.
Now this I'm leaving for later. Okay, just pin this in your mind. Stick with us, because what in the actual hell? This is a death wall at one of her.
Do you know what? I actually really like that. I love graffiti though. I actually really like it. I love the death wall. I do. It doesn't bother me. But anyway, the death wall wasn't reported in any credible media sources in Australia either, by the way.
Previous properties, from my understanding, and we will read through a little article to explain what in the hell is going on here. The point is, it's a red flag fiesta already. Okay, there's the changing stories and all of that, and we're just building this little timeline over here.
Yep, so let's throw her teenage daughter who did that under the bus as well while we're at it. I told you guys about the penis wall, the tenants of my brother's house, one of their kids who had autism or has autism, drew dicks all over the wall. The tenants had to have it repainted when they moved out, because otherwise my brother would have been like, what's with the dick wall? The person that painted it could have gone to the media and said, because my brother was the Premier of Tasmania. Former Premier of Tasmania has a penis wall in his house. Whoopity-doo. Anyway, I like the death wall. I think it's I like the colours. I like that her children are allowed to express themselves on the wall. I'm all for the death wall.
But damn, like the thing she wrote on here, I don't know what's going on here, but wow, we're going to read through an article, okay? So, continuing on with the story. She said, you see, that her two children, who were initially thought to have been present at the lunch, had actually gone to the movies before the others ate. When they returned, she claimed that the two children then ate the dish, but that she scraped off the mushrooms as they didn't like them. Then, after learning of her in-law's illness, Erin said that she preserved the meal and handed it over to toxicologists. However, she initially refused to speak to police. I will get to what happened, right? The kids have since...
She didn't refuse to speak to police. She refused to answer their questions, and that is her legal right to do so.
Since been removed from their mother's care while the investigation is underway. She also said that she received advice immediately after the death to not speak to the police. Typical, right?
Why did she roll her eyes like that? This is what I'm talking about. What are you doing, Gisela? You have the right to remain silent. It's pretty standard. Rose, of course she did. Most people do. They're allowed to. You got the cops there going, fucking hell, 3 people have died and you're the last person to feed them. Yeah, I think most people would say to her, don't answer their questions. You are allowed to do that. But Gisela, true crime, rolling her eyes, of course she remains silent. Most people do. You see what happens when they don't. There's a shitload of innocent people that ended up confessing because of interrogations that went on for hours. That's why the Innocence Project exists. Like, fuck me dead. But oh no, Erin opted to remain silent, as was her right. And we get the eye roll. What are you doing, Gisela? This is ridiculous. Like, at least respect the basic principles of investigations and the whole court process. Like, if you want to read the tabloids, go for it. But can you at least just go, yeah, well, that was her right, and not add that fuel to the fire after you've just shown the death wall that Erin didn't draw? I mean, holy McFuck.
She said, I now very much regret not answering some questions following this advice, given the nightmare that this process has become. In another bizarre twist, Victoria Police told NBC News that the police statement appears to have been provided to the ABC by Erin's legal team and did not come from them. You see, I'm just showing you the conflict so that you can prepare for what happened.
But it's not a conflict because you're reading from a tabloid. Just they gave it. Go to the fucking ABC. They were the ones given the statement. Do I have the article up? I think I do. On the ABC website, Erin Patterson, woman at centre of suspected Leongatha mushroom poisoning, gives her account of fatal meal. In a written statement sent to Victoria Police on Friday and obtained exclusively by the ABC. That's on the ABC website. It's not hard to verify facts.
She said, I really want to repeat that I had absolutely no reason to hurt these people whom I loved. Okay, then. So.
Even then. If Erin is innocent, I didn't want to kill people I loved. Oh, okay, then. Gisela, you're a tabloid YouTube creator right now in this particular case. That's all you are. And you've got all these people who love you and adore you, and they've been members for 2 years and everything else. And you're sitting there rolling your eyes. And okay, then, why is it wrong of Erin to say that if she's innocent, even if she's guilty? I mean, wouldn't that be the smart thing to say if you did it? I didn't want to kill them. I love them. But if she's innocent, she didn't want to kill them because she loved them. And you've got Gisela sitting there rolling. Oh, okay, then. What the fuck? I didn't actually get to see her face through this. I was listening to this. Yeah, Ian Wilkinson's alive and doing well. Well, I mean, he's still got a long way to go. But yeah, he's still in a critical condition in terms of moving forward, but he's stabilized. High cement shoes. Alrighty. Good to have you all here, Groovers. Let's keep going.
Don, Gail, Heather, and Ian had lunch. They went home, and then they got violently ill. The police have confirmed that their symptoms were consistent with ingesting death cap mushrooms. Yes. Camille, Catherine, thank you so much. I really appreciate your sticker. Yes, Birdie B, we're going to look at that interview together, okay? So, Don, Gail, and Heather passed away. Don on August 5th. Gail on August 4th. Heather on August 4th as well. And Reverend Ian Wilkinson is in critical condition but stable. He needs a liver transplant. So 3 out of the 4, other than Erin, have passed away. Gail and Don Patterson will be publicly honored at a memorial service at the Corumburra Recreation Center on August 31st. My goodness. So...
And she says that all the time, like, my goodness. Oh, hang on, I've got to let the ad play.
Today's the day I made £200,000 on a...
She says my goodness a lot. And it's like you're covering a really full-on story where 3 people died, and I get that. But if you notice how often she does the my goodness stuff and the eye rolling, and it's usually talking about Erin, She's very good at dramatizing it even more, and it's already a very dramatic tale.
News.com Australia reported that one of the ambulance workers who responded to the tragedy alerted police after hearing the dying words of one victim. They reported the guest's last whispers were so alarming that they
Actually, just on that one, soulmate, that's not true either. There's a case that I haven't fully written a script for it yet, but there's a case in America where death cap mushrooms were served and there were deaths and also survivors, and one of them was an 18-month-old baby who'd had like half a cap. And we did look at, I can't remember his name, the micrologist who talked about how some people are affected way worse than others. And then there's also the death cap mushroom survivor guy who spoke out as well and explained what it was like after he ate these mushrooms that he thoroughly enjoyed and then got violently ill and he survived it. But yeah, the micrologist was talking about how age, weight, all kinds of things can influence whether you survive or not. But yeah, there was a case in America where a couple of people died and like a lot of people were served it and the 18-month-old baby survived it. It's like a discriminating shroom of sorts.
they felt obliged to pass them on to investigators.
Oh,
However,
wait, I forgot. So, yeah, this one, unfortunately now when I pause it, but this story that she's talking about here, again, nothing in any credible media outlet, that workers who responded to the tragedy alerted police after hearing the dying words of one victim. They reported the guest's last whispers were so alarming, they felt obliged to pass them on to investigators. However, their exact words have not been made public. Neither has this whole, the last words muttered. But when I play it again, when I hit play again, have a look at the source up the top. It's news.com.au. If anyone is familiar with that site, is that your go-to for credible information?
exact words have not been made public. So I wonder what they said, but maybe they talked about the past a little bit. Okay. So, what are death cap mushrooms?
I'll forward
death
through
cap.
this because
I'm on new.
she's really good in terms of time stamping. She time stamps like a demon. I mean, she's onto it. You go into her descriptions and you can jump straight to it, but we don't need to. We've talked about the mushrooms enough. I want to get to the bit where I was like, are you seriously doing this?
Person that might
We're still on the mushrooms. There's a bit about the dehydrator, which I agree is very curious, the whole dehydrator stuff. And then the humanimal theory that there may have been a gravy that had the deadly mushrooms in it and the beef Wellington was actually fine. Because that could explain why she's like at the hospital going, here's what I fed them, you test it. And then they never mentioned the gravy again. But Ian can, if there was a gravy, right? So, but yeah, the dehydrator, chucking it out is a bit of a what the fuck. It doesn't look great. I have to agree. So I don't disagree with everything Gisela's saying. I think the dehydrator is key. It's a bit odd, but then you've got your ex, you're trying to sort some sort of custody arrangements out with them. You've had this lunch, the next minute, 3 people are dead. You're at the hospital with the kids, the ex-husband's there, and he says, did you use the dehydrator to poison my parents? Like, maybe some people in that kind of heightened state of panic and stress, maybe it's not that illogical that they get home and go, I've got to get rid of this fucking dehydrator. And I think a lot of the evidence from the tip is going to be really critical about the visits and what days and times and all of that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And then a lot of people too are saying, well, if she ended up then getting symptoms later in the day and took herself off to the local hospital and ended up being transferred to Melbourne, how was she well enough to take the dehydrator to the tip? But and it's come out many times on coverage of this story so far, there's this period that they call the honeymoon period. So like you eat the death caps, even like the victims, tragically, like they were fine after eating the dinner. It was a period of time had passed before they started having symptoms. And then what happens is you have these horrific sort of gastro-like symptoms and so on, and you're very unwell, like incredibly unwell, which is why you end up in hospitals. And then you sort of come through and you go into what they call the honeymoon phase, where all of the symptoms are disappearing and you're like, oh my God, I'm starting to feel great again. And even if you get tested, by then the toxins are out of your system. However, and this is where the death cap mushroom is particularly sneaky, the toxins have already laid the framework within you to start eating away, like essentially liquefying your internal organs. And then suddenly you crash again. And whether you survive it or not, it's a bit hit and miss. Unfortunately, on this occasion, 3 people lost their lives. Ian Wilkinson has survived it. If Erin ate the Wellington without the gravy and then took things to bring on symptoms and so on, I don't know. Like, I think a lot of the medical evidence is going to be critical in this case as well. Well, it is. I don't think it is. It is going to be incredibly critical. But that's how she could have got rid of the dehydrator. She might have been in that. If she ate it as well, and she'd been feeling a bit poorly, you do have these periods before symptoms kick in, and then a day or two later, you also have a period of thinking you've come out the other end, which is probably really poor choice of words when we're talking about gastro-type symptoms. It was a lunch, animal. It was a lunch. And most of the stuff I've read, the symptoms can start kicking in from in the first 6 to 12 hours after consuming. But don't forget, it was actually a lunch. So midnight's it's quite a lot of hours have passed. Your mum is 76, fit like a demon. She admitted to having magic mushrooms. I'm traumatized. And then this comment, no, I'm not okay. They do make a nice tea, Lindy Lou. Look at us naughty people. All right. So, yeah, I agree the dehydrator is a bit dodgy and all the landfill stuff. But again, that's evidence that's going to come out at some point. But I think we've all red flagged the dehydrator is a bit of one of the more dodgy bits of the story. But just to try to keep this live relatively concise, how long have we been live? An hour and 38 already. Holy shit. And then I'm going to at some point try to edit this down. And it's going to take me a month to do it. All right. So this is where I really started to get angry, in Tory angry. What I might do though is I really need to go to the loo. And so we might just have a little intermission if that's okay. And I also need to get a glass of water. And then we're going to come back and I'm going to explain why Gisela going from the dehydrator landfill tip stuff has then gone into Erin's statement and why it's really problematic to me. So, let me stop sharing Gisela for a moment. How long have we got with that song? Where's the song gone? Two and a half minutes. That's more than enough time for a quick intermission. It is cheery and upbeat for those of you who were here at the start, but it's good intermission music. So everyone, we've got 2.5 minutes to go to the loo, grab a drink, do whatever you need to do. And then I want to talk about why the angle that Gisela takes from this point on is really bad, in my humble opinion. See you back here soon. Enjoy the shroom song, everybody.
What's for dinner tonight?
Ain't afraid of the dark, and you're the bite of the bark. Hanging out in the shade and popping up in bouquets. Woo! You start off as a sport and you dominate the modern floor. The portobello ain't tall, but it's the belle of the ball. And milky grows in a bunch, and it goes in your lunch. Even if the king oyster doesn't grow in the sea, it cooks like beans, savory or mushroom. Ain't nobody who can touch you. I say mushrooms, finest fungus on the menu. From forever to the present, so the luminescent ain't no boogie like a super fun guy. Always a fun guy. Always a fun guy. Always a fun guy. From forever to the present, so the luminescent ain't no boogie like a super fun guy. You might be surprised at just how much we're alike. Half our genes are the same. I'm talking DNA. They hold a lot of water, potassium and copper. If you dream of being a vegan, it's me. We're talking mushrooms. Ain't nobody who can touch you. I say mushrooms. Finest fungus on the menu. From forever to the present, so the luminescent ain't no boogie like a super fun guy. Always a fun guy. Always a fun guy. Always a fun guy. From forever to the present, so the luminescent ain't no boogie like a super fun guy. For a forage in the forest to work, yeah, sniffing for a truffle with your nose in the dirt. If you're picking for your kitchen, making meals or dessert, you can find them in the wild all over the earth. The magic ones are magic, the poison ones are tragic. Even if it's yummy, doesn't mean you can have it. Oh, fun guy. Always a fun guy. Always a fun guy. Always a fun guy. So forever to the present, that's the ain't a boogie like the super fun guy.
We could be best friends forever.
Okay, 2.5 minutes was pretty speedy. Let me just get Gisela back up for a second. When I did breakfast radio, we'd have like we'd put like a 5-minute song on or a 15-minute song. What was it? It was I'm trying to think of the songs. MacArthur Park was a doozy for toilet breaks. And we used to have to like get out of the studio, out of the station, down onto the street, have a quick ciggy, get back in, go and make a coffee, go to the loo, or then make a coffee and get back in the studio. But I'm trying to think of the songs. Copperhead Road was a good one. That went for a long time. American Pie. You'd pick the longest song possible to have a little toilet break. Okay, so what I want to talk about now is, and this is where I have issues with Gisela. I've just got to get my headset back on. There's a lot going on in here. Okay, so how's everyone doing? No one in chat's even happy that I've come back. Can you hear me, guys? The cat lawyer, I love that. Your Honor, I assure you I'm not a cat. Yes, we can see that, Mr. Fogelberg, or whatever his name was. Is anyone actually able to hear me, or you just come here to hang out and don't care about the content? Oh, cool. All right. You can hear me. Thanks, Cement Shoes. At least one of you is listening. Thank you. Oh, my girl Waffles is happy too. Lindy Lou's happy. All right. So this is where I decided I had to. Hello, Francesca. Hi, Aussie Tad. This is where I got a bit upset. What Gisela does here, despite her thorough research and everything else, and her timelines and her slides and everything that she does, for some reason in this live, she talks about the statement that Erin gives. Now, Erin gave the statement. The statement was released by her lawyers to Victoria Police and to the ABC on the 11th of August, Friday the 11th of August. In fact, it was one of the last real updates we've had, other than the funeral of Don and Gail and the memorial service. There really hasn't been anything else since the statement. And Erin's statement was written to respond to questions that the media had been asking, and also to clarify some things that had been said in the police conference that weren't accurate. And the police conference occurred on Monday, the 7th of August. And that was also the day Erin was sabotaged by the media in her driveway. Why I have a problem with this is Gisela uses Erin's statement, goes through it, and then plays the police conference that happened 5 days earlier and points out that the police are debunking all of the stuff that Erin's put in her statement. And to me, that's fucked up. I keep forgetting StreamYard chat's a little bit ahead of YouTube. But do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, Erin's statement was put out because the media were hounding her. They'd been asking a heap of questions. She was hoping the idea of putting out this statement would answer the questions and media might back off a bit. But in her statement, she also clarifies or corrects some things that were said in the police conference that weren't accurate. One of them being the kids were at home that day but had a different meal. She clarifies that their kids had actually gone to the movies. She did. She played it out of order. And it totally changes the way this case is presented, because what she does is she goes through the statement, and then later on in her live, she plays the press conference. She also plays Erin's interview, and they both happened on the Monday. And then on the Friday, when the statement came out, Erin was clarifying some things and providing additional information to respond to media questions. And it totally shifts everything, because what Gisela does is when she plays the police conference, the press conference, she continually refers to how the police are debunking all the stuff in Erin's statement. Like, she's totally missed the point of the statement. And that, to me, well, that's the question. Is she doing it to sensationalize? Because I think it's really irresponsible, because it totally changes everything. She doesn't mention the date of this statement or the date of the press conference or the date of the interview. She's incredibly scathing of Erin in the interview. She points out Erin getting the names wrong like I did, and points that out as being a major red flag. And admittedly, at first I thought, oh, that's a bit dodgy. But then rewind, she's literally had 3 people she had to lunch the week before die, one of them only 2 days before she spoke to the media, the other 2 only the day before that. She's got kids that have lost their grandparents. Like, she's probably sedated as well. Fuck knows what she's needing just to be able to get out of bed. The interview in the driveway with the media, I don't put that much importance on it. I certainly don't analyze all of her body language, because I don't know what her baseline is, and I'm not qualified to do it even if I did. But I think it's reckless to do this. Like, to be honest, if you really want to present the case to your subscribers, do things in order. Play the press conference. And then when you get to Erin's statement, go through the things that were said in the press conference that she said were actually incorrect. Because when you do it the other way, Gisela just keeps going more and more lies and keeps rolling her eyes. And all of her subscribers are basically, which we'll look at shortly, because I'm not going to play much more of Gisela. There's not, I mean, I'm more that what I will do is drop the link to her live in case anyone hasn't watched it and they want to. But I will play a few more bits that we'll react to. But for the most part, there's the link. Can we start referring to her as Gisela, as she's becoming a true crime wanker? Well, she is on this occasion. Sorry, you are Gisela. Gisela. Oh my God, DWS, you're so naughty. What's open to debatable interpretation? I don't think there's really anything you can debate. Like, showing these out of order is wrong. Because what she does is she makes out that Erin's telling all these lies, because when she plays the press conference, she's like, well, the police just debunked that. They've just debunked that. It's bad to do it that way. And I reckon you guys should watch the live to see, because I'm not going to play all of her live, but listen to it. See if you think it was a fair way to cover the story, because I don't think it was, especially someone who prides herself on putting all the timelines and everything together. It really shocked me that she did this. Like, I mean, Erin's already looking bad. Even if you're playing devil's avocado and the presumption of innocence is floating around, there's a lot of stuff, not a lot. There are some things that make you go, ooh, okay. She didn't need to be painted in even more sinister light. Like, the story is already mysterious and we don't have a lot of facts yet. But this just feeds all of these supporters that want the goriest possible version of events. And I think it was bad. I agree with you, Tori, but to me, it's not a surprise that she does things this way. You're seeing through her now. That's the good. Yay! I'm a late developer, humanimal. I haven't actually watched her for a lot. The last time I watched her was Nicola Bully. Or really listen to her. I don't really watch many YouTubers. But that was the last case she covered that I was, clicking on her links. But like I said, she goes for a long time. It's, I've got things to do. I don't have hours in the day. Oh, hang on. I thought I was in my little. Oh, hang on. Hey. Yeah, I don't have enough time in the day to sit and watch shit on YouTube, but also to listen to people that go on and on for hours. I'm a bit impatient like that. I'm very patient waiting for facts to come out. I'm a bit impatient with YouTube. Just get to the point. And here we are at the 2-hour mark, and I haven't even got to the comment section, which is where I really want to go. She's making stuff up. Well, she's sort of twisting. And she's relying on tabloids. So she's putting stuff out there as fact that's come from a tabloid that is made up. Of course she's going to be scrutinized. I mean, she's the suspect. That's unfortunately what happens when you are a suspect. No, lying and making stuff up is not the truth. Grizzly does use timestamps. All right, so we'll just play a little bit of this, and then I'm going to jump to I don't care about the analysis of the driveway thing, because it's pretty similar to what I did. I'm like, oh, she got the names wrong. But then there's also with the press in her driveway, and she refuses to talk about the food that she served and all of that. Gisela makes out that that's all really scandalous as well. And it's like, Erin didn't fucking owe the media anything. She could have got out of her car, grabbed her shopping and walked in. She didn't have to say a word. It's the media. She owes them nothing. But Gisela makes out that her not answering the questions about what meal was served and so on adds to her guilt, essentially. I watched the guy who murdered his son and ex-girlfriend and thought she was bloody great. That's why this surprised me. So, look, isn't that the joy of YouTube, though? We all get surprised. One day I might surprise you all and you all might unsubscribe and disappear and I will cry. I will miss you. But, yeah. Let's be honest, Erin made herself look bad too. You can, to present a bias, absolutely. I think she should have told them to get off her property too. And she could have. And then they'd be going, isn't she a bitch? She's clearly a murderer because she told the media to get off her fucking property. But did Erin make herself bad? That might have been the best version of Erin that we don't know. Like, she's got shitloads of cameras in her face and microphones and people, all these different journos firing questions at her. And she's literally had 3 people die in the last 76 hours or whatever. And they're all there in her face. I don't know. I can't judge her for that, like how she handled it. And I've said this many times, like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Everyone's a critic. Everyone watches and goes, she did it. She did it. And it's just not cool to do that because we don't know what it would be like. People have been in hospital for a week and now they're dying. She's got children that are grieving the loss of their grandparents. Like I said, she might have been sedated, but also we don't know what she's like. Like, she might be really socially awkward and odd, which I think she kind of comes across as, and that her in the driveway might have been her really trying to be as cooperative as she could be. I mean, I can't say she made herself look bad. I think she looks like someone who's fucking in shock, or if she did it, she's just put on the performance of a lifetime. I don't know. But how can we say she made herself look bad when we don't know what Erin usually is like? It's a big judgment call to make. Because you can watch that interview over and over again and explain it. You can either watch it as I believe 100% she's innocent, and you look at her and you go, that's the woman who's innocent clearly, and you can go, I'm going to watch it like she did it, and you can find all these things that point out that she did it. Like even the rubbing the eyes, Gisela talks about, looking at her eyes to see if there's tears, but when I'm crying, if I've got eye makeup on, I look at my hands to see if there's mascara on my hands because I'm a bit OCD with shit on my hands. But there's always an opposite explanation to stuff. Don't you reckon? She was, but she may have been told not to comment publicly to anyone. And again, it's the media. It wasn't a police interrogation, and she had the right to remain silent in that. Like, she didn't have to. It's the media. She doesn't owe them anything. They're fucking trespassing on a property. She's just been to the supermarket and she rocks up and it's like the bloody red carpet at the Oscars. Yeah, we don't know her baseline. It's all about the base. All right. Well, it's a local newsletter. It's not like The Age or The Australian. It's just a little community newsletter thing. All right. Let's bring up. We'll just play a little bit of this, then we'll jump to the police conference so you can see Gisela pointing out how the cops have debunked everything in Erin's statement, even though Erin's statement came out after the press conference to respond to some of the misinformation put out in the press conference and also to answer questions about the meal.
I did find as much as possible from everywhere of what the hell that letter said.
Yeah, the
Key
whole
points of
statement's
Erin's
never
police
been
statement.
released.
Erin admitted to originally lying to police and then panicked by dumping the food dehydrator at a nearby tip, which is a landfill, amid fears that she would lose custody of her children. She said she actually did eat the beef Wellington meal herself and was hospitalized and had to be transferred to Melbourne by ambulance. She claims that she brought the mushrooms bought, obviously, from a supermarket and an Asian grocery store in Melbourne. She was unable to verify which Asian grocer. Contrary to previous reports, Miss Patterson's 2 children didn't attend the lunch but ate leftovers the following night with the mushrooms taken out. You see, the story's changed the whole time. Miss Patterson insists that she always had
And this is where she's fucking up, because the whole point of this statement was to clarify things. But here we go, we twisty twist.
a positive and amicable bond with her former in-laws even after the marriage with their son broke down. She said, I'd been very close with Simon's parents for a long period of time. Our relationship had continued in a fairly amicable way after I finished the relationship with their son, Simon. Oh, yeah, right. But friends are saying she wanted to get back with him. But okay. Our relationship.
Oh, yeah, well, let's believe the friends over Erin. See, this is why I get frustrated. This is going to make me angry, because it made me angry listening to it earlier. The unnamed friend in the tabloid is being given more weight than Erin. And a lot of this stuff Ian Wilkinson might be able to respond to, as well as people that knew them on both sides, like Simon's friends and her friends. But no, we'll just, what frustrates me is this statement was clearly put out on the advice of a lawyer who'd helped her write it. The one thing the lawyer is going to definitely want to do is make sure that the things that are put in there can be verified and they're factual. Otherwise, you don't put anything in there. But again, the anonymous, unnamed friend quoted in only tabloids in Australia weighs more importance than a statement that was provided to the Victoria Police and the ABC. Okay.
Relationship was affected to some degree by seeing them less after my marriage breakdown with Simon. However, I've never felt differently towards his parents. I had a deep love and respect for Simon's parents and had encouraged my children to spend time with their grandparents, as I believed they were exceptional role models.
Business owners, executives, and professionals.
Let's just get through this ad, Groovers.
She said that she reluctantly helped. Now, here we go. I'm like, wait, past behavior. Anything? We see this often in these poison type cases. Anything from the past. She said she reluctantly helped care for Simon last year. That was in 2022. Okay, after he spent 2 weeks in hospital battling a severe stomach illness unrelated to the current incident. I was like, oh, sorry, what? Okay. She said she reluctantly agreed to nurse Simon for 3 weeks when he was discharged from the hospital before telling him that she did not want to repair the marriage. I don't know about any of that. She said her estranged.
She doesn't know anything about that. Like, if Erin's innocent, this statement was put out to set the record straight and answer some questions. We still don't really know what was behind Simon's illness, but surely there will be medical records and so on regarding that. It's not unusual to be reluctant about nursing your ex when they are sick, but she did it, even though she probably didn't want to, but she did help with nursing him. And in fact, we saw in an article, remember there was on his Facebook post, the hamper that someone had sent, one of the sporting clubs that he was a member of, that had been sent to him when he was in hospital, and he said he was really looking forward to sharing it with Erin and the kids. Remember all of that stuff? I don't know what you're doing, Gisela. I do, apparently. Apparently, I'm a bit late to the party. But I can see through you now. Makes a big difference when you know a case inside out, I guess.
Husband intended joining the fatal lunch, but told her prior to the day. See, that's not what his friend said. The friend said last minute.
And there's the friend. Oh, that's a different friend. That's Simon's friend who said he pulled out the last minute, where she's like, no, he let me know the day before. There's probably a text message verifying that. Again, like, what lawyer is going to put shit in this statement that gets put out publicly that can't be verified in some way, shape, or form? It would make no sense I would never in a million years do that for a client. Never, ever. Okay, you want me to put this in? Cool. How can we verify this? Is there a text message? Is there a photo of you with them on that day? Like, any witnesses? No, I don't have anything like that. Well, then we're not putting it in the statement. We'll just shelve that for the moment and see if we can find some evidence to back that up down the track. That's the advice you give your client when you write a fucking statement to put out. To me, the whole point of the statement was to answer questions and try to make media back off, because they were in her face and she was incredibly stressed at this point. And also that there were things said in the police press conference that weren't correct, in her opinion, like the kids being at the movies when the cops said they were at home, that sort of stuff that can be verified.
Prior to the day that he would not be attending. Now, could he have still told her prior to the day and the friend only last minute? Sure. Okay, now, look at this. Simon Patterson, the estranged husband, is now claiming that he once spent 16 days in an induced coma from a mystery gastro illness after eating food prepared by his wife in 2022. I collapsed at home. Then I was in an induced coma for 16 days, through which I had 3 emergency operations, mainly on my small intestine, plus an additional planned operation, Mr. Patterson wrote. My family were asked to come and say goodbye to me twice, as I was not expected to live. I was in intensive care for 21 days, after which I was in the general ward for a week, and now I'm at a rehab place. I have a big scar on my tummy, which is healing itself slowly, and I have ICU acquired weakness, which is a common condition of people who lie in intensive care for a long time, as I did. I can walk and do all the normal daily functions myself. However, my left shoulder in particular is very weak. The couple had apparently been separated for a number of years. A friend of Erin's told the Daily Mail this week that...
See, she skims over that bit too, that they'd been separated for a number of years. Wouldn't you be reluctant to nurse your ex-husband back to health that you'd been separated from for a couple of years? Like, who wouldn't be reluctant? Put a 1 in chat. If you had separated from your husband a few years ago and they get sick and end up in hospital, would you be the first one volunteering to go in and help with the nursing and recovery? I don't think you would. I'm going to sit here and wait and see if any number ones pop up. That's what I'm going to do. You're late. Thanks, Lindy Lou. We can be late together, Groover. Gazella's now in the position where she could be maestro and conductor. Well, she's conducting. That's a great way. Kim Animal, you always write things that make... I wish I thought like you that I could come out with these sentences, but that's so spot on. She's conducting her audience. Miss K, who knows? There'll be obviously a lot of evidence, medical evidence about the hospital. I mean, maybe... because she wasn't formally admitted as a patient, like maybe she didn't need to go to the Austin because she went to Monash. But, maybe she just needed to be whacked on a saline drip for 24 hours sort of thing. Who knows? I think that'll all come out. She may not have required specialist treatment. She might have just required some rehydration and observation. Francesca wouldn't. Well, I think that would have been her motive, would have been. And also that they had this amicable split, of course. But you'd still be reluctant, like, if you were working full-time or something like that and they needed nursing for 3 weeks, I'd be reluctant. I don't know if I'd be taking 3 weeks of annual leave to do that. I mean, I'm not saying she was. I'm just trying to throw out some scenarios. But yeah, I think the kids could well be the reason for doing it. Yep, I think most of you are probably coming from that. You'd be cheering for your ex. Thank you, DWS. I knew there'd be somebody in the chat that's reasonable or realistic. Thank God I'm not the only one. See, shit, no. Yeah, but Miss K, they may not have decided she needed to be triaged there. Again, that's going to come out in the evidence. She may not have been in such a bad way. She may have just had some pretty bad gastro sort of... I mean, who knows? I can't answer that question. I mean, it's a good question, but it'll come out in some point, at some point. And I understand you understand how it all works. But yeah, I mean, let's wait and see. Who knows? There's so many who knowses in this story. It's gripping. I want to try to wrap this up by the 3-hour mark. Holy shit. 3 o'clock. Yeah, I want to cook and do some stuff. I want to go for a beach walk too. All right, let's keep going.
That Erin and her family were all experienced mushroom foragers in the Gippslands area around her.
Hang on, where's that bit? A friend of Erin's told the Daily Mail Dun, 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 dun. They're all experienced foragers. They might be. They may well be. I'd be surprised. I mean, her family, are we talking her kids? Because I doubt that her parents, who both passed away in 2019, well, I don't know, maybe they were, but the mother was a very prominent author, professor, who died of cancer, by the way. The people who continue, including under Gazella's Live, to demand an inquiry into how Erin's parents died. Well, her mother was quite a public figure and she died of cancer. So are you going to suggest that somehow Erin gave her mother cancer? You fucking idiots. Sorry. It irritates me. I just keep imagining if this was somebody that I knew, I'd be fighting to the death to protest their innocence until facts proved otherwise. It's the honourable side of the fence. It's much easier to point the blame, but oh yes, let's look into how her parents died. Well, one of them was very well known publicly, and it's all out there, and she died of cancer. But anyway, yeah, so the friend from the Daily Mail.
Their hometown. Yes, Texas Data Mine says reluctantly helping. Wow. Yeah, that's what
I think Simon's statement regarding the foraging expertise will be a bit more important than the unnamed friend in the Daily Mail, just saying.
She's like, okay. Wow.
Well, see, someone in the chat just got highlighted. They were disappointed that Erin reluctantly nursed him, whereas DWS and I are like, fuck no. I mean, if I had no option, and if I didn't have kids as well, why does having kids change everything? I suppose you've got to look after daddy, look after dada. But they were separated when he was in hospital last year, and people sent him a hamper, and he said he was looking forward to sharing it with Erin and the kids. So they clearly were on good terms. Because I wouldn't share my hamper with an ex. No fucking way. I'd eat every single gourmet treat in there all for myself. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Teresa's putting all the red flags up, you guys. Red flag. Yes. Toby says, why did they eat her food then? Interesting. They trusted her.
Miss Kate,
I don't know. We've seen
it's
this
cool.
in
You
poisoning
can
cases
disagree,
before, right?
but you don't need to put bullshit in the chat to me. BS. Maybe they would. I don't know. I'm not medical, and I wasn't responsible for what they. Wow, you're being a bit harsh with me. Like seriously. I don't know what I'm meant to do. If I make out I know the answer, I'll get told off for that. And if I say I don't know, let's wait. I get told BS. Okay. Looking forward to joining one of your lives soon so I can heckle you from chat.
Right. Valid question, not victim blaming. CK says arsenic and old lace. Oh man. Thank
That
you,
makes
CK.
sense too, my girl waffles. Of course you do.
So yes, there is some past behavior.
And you'd share your hamper
So
with your kids.
before we look at the
too.
interview and the press conference, let me read you the family statement that's been put out.
I don't want to be disrespectful to the victims, but I'm going to jump forward just for brevity because I just want to make one final point with the police conference and Gazella pointing out how the police are debunking everything in Erin's statement, even though the statement came out after the press conference. The amazing skit by... No, I don't remember. I'll have to Google that. I need a laugh. I'll watch that later. All right, let's go.
Late last week as a result of suspected mushroom poisoning. Firstly, I'd like to say that because the Homicide Squad is investigating this matter, it doesn't automatically mean that the deaths are suspicious. I can say that at this point in time, the deaths are unexplained.
Look at her. She just rolled her eyes at the cop. Okay.
And for that purpose, we are involved.
We have to remember at the moment she's innocent, and Gisela rolls her eyes. Yeah. Just chuck that presumption of innocence in the shredder. Who needs it, right?
And we are working as hard as we can to try and identify why these deaths have
Agreed.
happened
There's
and
no
the
past behaviour,
circumstances
Lindy
surrounding the
Lou.
same. What I can tell you is that on Saturday, the 29th of July, so just over a week ago, 4 elderly people went to an address in Leongatha to take part in a lunch. At that location, there was another person present and also 2 children. Lunch was had, and the 4 people left the address, and unfortunately,
Best true crime creator on YouTube. Why don't I get comments like that I can highlight during my life? Sorry, no, I snorted too. Sorry. Look at Gisela waiting to pounce. Bear in mind, guys, this conference, August the 7th, the same day Erin spoke to the media. Erin's statement put out August the 11th. But let's play them in reverse.
late on the Saturday night, early Sunday morning, they came down with symptoms of some type of food poisoning. As a result, they attended local hospitals in the area, being Leongatha and Currumborough, and subsequently they were conveyed off to other hospitals in Melbourne and ended up at the Austin Hospital, where they were treated for their symptoms. Unfortunately, on Friday, 2 of those people that were present at the lunch passed away, and again on Saturday, a 3rd person passed away. The fourth person that was invited to the dinner is still alive, however, remains in a critical condition and is being treated, as I've said earlier, at the Austin Hospital. Further, what I can tell you in relation to this, that on Saturday the 5th of August, members from the homicide squad executed a search warrant at the residential address in Leongatha.
See that comment down there? I feel a mushroom hobbyist would know what mushroom species they're cooking with, red flags. But again, we don't actually know for sure. I think the husband will, the ex-husband, the estranged husband will be able to shed light upon the foraging skills of Erin Patterson. But they're already in chat going with that whole forager thing, and that came from an unnamed source in a tabloid.
Where the luncheon took place. A 48-year-old female from that address was interviewed by homicide squad investigators, and she was released late Saturday evening, pending further inquiries being conducted. The 2 children that were present at the lunch on the Saturday, the 29th of July, they did not receive any injuries or symptoms, because we believe that they may have had a different meal to those others that had been there. So the investigation is continuing at this point in time, and our thoughts are with the family of those people that have passed away, and also the person that remains alive at this point in time. I do ask people to out in the community to think about mushrooms that they may have picked out in paddocks, farms, whatever it might be. Please think about whether they are, you should eat them. My suggestion is, if you haven't purchased them from a supermarket or something like that, perhaps stay clear of them. But again, we're working very hard in relation to this, and hopefully we can provide some answers to the families of our deceased people. And obviously at some point we will be providing a report for the coroner in relation to what has occurred.
And that really is the key to it too, is it's the answers for the family on what actually happened and how they lost Don and Heather and Gail, and also what Ian's now facing. That really is what this all hinges on, isn't it? Answers for them.
That woman has not presented with any symptoms. So again, that forms part of our investigation, whether she did or didn't eat any of the mushrooms or anything else that may have been eaten on that particular day.
Don't you just love how he says that woman has not shown any symptoms? Just completely debunk that. This is Detective Inspector Dean Thomas from the Victoria Police Homicide Squad.
We know what.
And I guess that's one where the hospital records again are going to provide the answers to so many of these questions. I think it was Humanimal who raised in one of the earlier shows that we did about how Erin might have taken, laxatives and things that might have brought on gastro-like symptoms. I mean, it's a very interesting possibility, especially if this was all planned to the absolute hilt. But I think all the medical records are going to be fairly important. And if she's showing the symptoms, like was she tested as well, like with the toxicology type test, whatever they do to send that off to be tested in the by toxicology or whatever it's called, toxologist, is it? Whether that was, if she was at the hospital, did they even do that? Who knows? It's all going to come out at some point, surely. I think that the medical records, Ian Wilkinson's statement and the ex-husband, and even the kids potentially too. But yeah, it's got so many different elements and layers to it. But I just think it's disappointing that Gazella chose to play this and after the statement and then keep saying the cops are debunking everything, because it's not right. Sometimes cops too, like we mentioned earlier, they will be the one that sort of like, it'll be the head person that does the press conferences. Look at how many American cases the cops that do the press conferences get ripped to shreds. Idaho 4 springs to mind, and then the DA in Chris Watts. And yeah, they may not always, even though they have a brief before they speak to the public and they've probably got some notes and whatever, there are often questions thrown at them that they're sort of responding to from memory as well. So, the cops sometimes get things wrong too.
The meals were that the adults ate and what the children ate specifically?
Oh, they were different meals, and again, I won't go into detail, but we do believe we know what the meals were that the people ate on that particular day.
Hi, Lola.
What type of mushroom it was that they consumed?
No, and again, we are presuming at this point it's mushrooms. The symptoms that these people presented with are that of.
That's an interesting comment too, Humanimal. The fact it was a lunch and they say 6 to 12 hours for death cap, therefore midnight's spot on and really excludes Erin. If you're going to plan a murder, do it to the hilt. Put me on. I was only responding to you saying that's BS. I said I don't know, Miss K. And I just didn't appreciate saying that's BS. I'm just trying to be conversational. I'm not hanging on. You're hanging on every word, and I'm not putting myself as an authority on this. We're having a chat about a case. So I'm sorry if you felt you were put on blast, but I didn't like being told what I said was bullshit either. Like, I wasn't saying that everything I said was factual. I said I don't know, and we need to wait for the medical evidence to come out. That's what I was responding to. But I adore you, so we're not always going to agree on stuff. But you said what I said was bullshit. Why wouldn't I respond to that? But I agree to your earlier comment that I don't think she was being nasty either. It was just unfortunate she's done it that way, because I think it completely flips the way her subscribers are perceiving what we know so far. And the fact that she's used the tabloids as well. I don't think her intention was bad either. I can't even imagine her strategically saying, oh, well, I did think about it. Like, why would you why would you go through the statement before the press conference? Like, is that deliberate? And if it was deliberate, then she's trying to mislead her audience, because that's what she's basically doing now with pointing out all the inconsistencies between the two. But one came before the other. And I think, in all fairness, that's the way you should look at it. But yeah, I apologise if you felt that you were on blast. I kind of did too, mate. Group hug, exactly. Thanks, humanimal. Such an American thing. Group hug. Group hug. Oh, I should have said an American accent. Well, let's just be Americans for 30 seconds. Okay, we'll just finish a little bit of this because I just want to point out when she mentioned the cops once again debunking the statement that came after this conference.
Death cap mushrooms. And again, we're working closely with Department of Health and, of course, our poisons medical experts in relation to this investigation.
We understand that last night police returned to the house where the meal was served. Can you tell us anything about the reason for that?
No, I can't. Last night? No, they were there on Saturday and they returned there late on Saturday night.
It's been reported that there was a dehydrator that may have been used to dry the mushrooms that was disposed of. Is that accurate?
We've seized a number of what we call exhibits in relation to the matter. As to the detail of all of those exhibits, I won't go into them. But obviously, a lot of the items that we have seized will be forensically tested in the hope that that can shed some light on what has occurred at the lunch on the Saturday.
So is the 48-year-old a suspect?
The 48-year-old is, well, yes, she is. And she is because she cooked those meals for us, for those people that were present.
The question was, is she a suspect? Well, yes, she is, because she cooked those meals for everybody. We can go over some of where there was a lawyer who commented on this case and like, what would they have to show to a jury, right? So we'll get to that as well.
Now, again, she hasn't presented with any symptoms, but we have to keep an open mind in relation to this, that it could be very innocent. But again, we just don't know at this point.
The squinty eyes.
That's the point. Someone in chat is saying, but I thought she had symptoms and went to the hospital. That's the point. She makes up a lot of stories, apparently. She changes the story a lot. She lies a lot. It's really a train wreck of media interviews for her. I don't know if you guys have seen.
And this is where I've got the problem with it all. Because the statement came after this conference. There's things like if she did present with symptoms, whether or not they were deliberately inflicted upon herself, but that all of this stuff there's going to be evidence. Like I said earlier, there's nothing in the statement that the lawyer hasn't gone through with her to make sure that there's some way that they can verify those things. But she also says she lies a lot. Well, she does even admit in her statement she lied about the dehydrator. But what are the other lies? I thought that was the lie. Was the dehydrator. Were there any more? I mean, take away from Gisela implying that the things Erin put in her statement are lies because the conference that happened prior to the statement say otherwise. What other lies? Are there any other lies? We do. We go to the pub for a pint, not a group hug. The cuddle puddles, I certainly do. Actually, I think in that little tiny bit of that live that remains intact after Joseph Morris struck me and I had to take it off YouTube, like erase it permanently. I think there's actually a comment that I make in that little clip where I say I didn't think Johnny Depp was a cuddle puddle kind of person. But anyway, that's enough of the... I want to do a quick look at some of the comments and see if we can find Lindy Lou in all of her glory. Just to go through a few comments, just to see how that sort of reckless choice to show the statement first and then press conference afterwards. Yeah, has anyone thought of any other lies? I mean, she said a lot of stuff we don't know is verified or not yet. But I just think Grizzly's just been a bit irresponsible. to the comments. No, that I've got that bit of it, Cement, but I haven't got the whole live. The whole live came down, but we'd already clipped that. I'd already done a little short video because it was so funny with us coming up with all the literary stuff. So that still survived. That's on this channel. But the whole live, the verdict live with Jen Lou, all of that's gone. Joseph Morris struck me hard, and YouTube said you need to take that down. No ifs, ands, or I could have disputed it, but Joseph Morris is bad juju, and I didn't want him knowing anything about me, which is the bummer when you decide to dispute, because it turns into a legal process. So you've got to provide all your details and stuff. All right, we'll have a look at some of them. But again, I've dropped the link before, so you can all go and have a look too. And we'll see if we can spot Lindy Lou in the chat, in the comments. And I think Miss Kay was in the comments too. So let's have a look. But this is just to point out again why this irresponsible covering of stuff on YouTube just needs to be seriously looked into, and some of the lawsuits might bring about some changes. Like, we are responsible for what we do on here. If we're going to be covering stuff like an active case, got to be careful. There's a lot of people were in her chat mentioning the foraging. Aussie Mel says, I was told by my mum you scratch the lid of a mushroom. If it goes brown, you can eat it. If it goes yellow, you can't. Everyone said that, well, some of them turn biro ink blue when scratched. But the people that have eaten the death caps and survived say they were absolutely delicious. The girl that made the death cap soup after picking a few in her, like on her walk home, said it was the best meal. Remember her? She was in one of the stories we looked at the other day. So there's a lot of foraging chat. But again, do we know what sort of forager Erin was? But we'll get out of the mushroom chat. Then someone's puppy picked up a death cap mushroom. Wow, so it affected the dog. Because I thought, wow, okay. Didn't the micrologist say that it was weird that death cap mushrooms are only toxic to humans, I thought? Didn't we read that the other day in the statement? Like, for some weird reason, humans react really badly to it, but like animals don't. But in any event, happy to hear the puppy survived. So there's puppy stuff. Okay, here we go. I'm an Aussie, and in my opinion, this evil woman will be spending a long time inside a prison very soon. Thanks for covering this one. Lindy Chamberlain vibes, anybody? I mean, even if she did it, we all know it's not going to be very soon. Like, the course of justice runs very, very slowly. In a moment of panic, most people will lie to the police and attempt to distance themselves from their actions, but that doesn't mean they committed the act of murder, but definitely manslaughter. You're only lying to the police if you're guilty. Yellow or green spores are not safe. Oh, but Humanimal, I don't think every puppy owner is as good as you. But the first part of your comment, though, about the moment of panic and stuff, the Channel 9 Under Investigation show with Liz Hayes, it's pretty interesting. Like, in my opinion, the bulk of it is skewed towards her being guilty. Like, the bulk of the opinions on there is she done it. But it's a pretty frank discussion. It's interesting. I can't play it on my channel. I'll get struck again. But interestingly, there is someone on the panel who explains why Erin's so awkward in the driveway interview and doesn't see any alarm bells with any of it. And it was just interesting that there was somebody on there who was sort of saying there's nothing standing out as being odd or weird to me at all, where the behaviour panel, from all accounts, and the little bit that was played on Grizzlies at the end is more about the beef Wellington. But they were pretty much ready to, throw her in a cell and lock her up and throw away the key. So it was quite refreshing to have somebody presumably trained in behavioural. I'm pretty sure they would have been introduced at the start, and I just didn't know who was who as I was listening as I was driving. But yeah, they kind of didn't see anything alarming at all. It was refreshing. It was a good, fair discussion, because even some of the people, even some of the people on it who were probably more leaning towards guilt than innocence, even there were some things that they didn't think were overly concerning either. But yeah, a bit Lindy Chamberlain, right? This evil woman will be spending a long time inside a prison. And then the replies, 1956 soulmate, I'm an Aussie too and completely agree with you. I mean, she invited them to lunch and now her guests are not walking around, but she's looking fit and healthy. How does that happen? Hey, look at this American. Go you, Alexandra. Always guilty until proven innocent. Here, I thought only us Americans did that. Oh, you're getting a thumbs up from me, Alexandra. People like you don't like reaching logical conclusions based on likely probabilities. Your character judgment abilities are stunted. When she is found guilty, what will you tell yourself? Oh, so this person, Chris Good, is pissed off with Alexandra? People like you don't like reaching logical conclusions. Look, Chris, come on. I think everybody's fond of the logical conclusion, but you need some facts to reach that. Chris is a bit grumpy. Chris hasn't done Pooja Day. Chris, be good. Back to the mushrooms. Okay, now we've got Susie Gemma. I'm in Australia, and this has been all over the news. It's so obvious that it's her. Her husband went to hospital a few years back, was on his deathbed, and they couldn't figure out why. It's so obvious that it's her. See, Susie Gemma's bang up for it. And bear in mind, these people have seen Grizzlies Alive on this, so they're automatically being fed the guilty as sin narrative, unfortunately. But there's a few people in there that are like, hang on a tick. Whoa there, Nelly. And I think his medical history and so on will be pretty interesting evidence as well. Then Jane says, wow, nice woman. I bet he's changed his mind about reconciling. You should never serve food you won't eat yourself. True. I do believe in that. Cakes boo. I'm just waiting for the arrest. It's taken a little too long, but gaining evidence, I suppose. Yeah, it is. That's what they're doing. They're investigating, and they've got to wait for toxicology. And I think the article about the memorial said there's probably still 2 weeks before they'll be likely to be back from Europe. Mel says, yep, she's an odd one, or an odd on. She is odd on and off the charts level, sorry. Think she snapped at X rejecting her offer of a repairing, wink, after he was ill and nearly died from digestive issues. Run, ex-hubby, run, a woman scorned. I mean, she is odd. But then sort of mousy, quiet people wouldn't think she's odd. And she snapped at the ex rejecting her offer of a repair. We don't even know for sure if it was a repairing. They might have all just been friends who caught up for lunch from time to time. That came from an unnamed friend in a tabloid too, the whole why the lunch happened, but that's okay. They can run with that stuff. Her husband was hospitalised only last year and is still suffering gut problems. I kind of hope for Erin's sake, even if she's guilty of this, that Simon's stuff is nothing to do with it. That Facebook post. But nobody mentions the, look at this amazing hamper that I was sent and I'm going to share it with Erin and the kids. Who's happy to share the hamper. They don't mention the good stuff. There's Lindy Lou. Sorry, I've just realised there's our Lindy Lou. You guys need to get updates on this case and from a reputable source. Hey. Yay. Is Lindy Lou who's still here? Your shining moment. Yeah, it was horrible how Lindy was villainised. But apparently Australia hasn't learned from that at all. When I watch those type of interviews, I don't judge and try to be a behaviourist, but I do go by my response to the person. Yeah, I don't feel, it's funny, isn't it? Because I'm like you, my little hinky meter. Actually, that's a good thing for everyone to put in chat. What does your hinky meter say when you, I know Cement Shoes is going to say, kill her, burn the witch. But what is your, what do you all think from the driveway interview? Like, I don't have anything, like, put Jared Baden Clay's interview, acting like he hadn't just murdered his wife, or Chris Watts for that matter. Hinky meter whirring like a demon. When Tom Maher was being scrutinised by the media and the public for potentially being his beautiful wife's murderer, I had no hinky meter at all. I was like, he didn't do it. Same with Shane Carey in the he got absolutely ripped to shreds. I've just forgotten his partner's name, the girl that was murdered by her best friend. It was right on the tip of my tongue. I'll get back to that. It should jump back into my head in a minute. Megan. But yeah, I didn't think he sounded guilty at all, but people ran with that one. But I don't know with Erin. I don't feel, I think because it's such a bizarre story, everyone's sort of watched it with bewildered awe. But I'm curious to see what you guys think. Oh, Heidi Broussard, thank you. Thank you. But what was the friend, the best friend, the murderer? Heidi. Firamuska. Is she Megan? What was her name? There was baby Margot. Yeah, Megan, M-A-G-N. Megan Firamuska. That's what I was getting there. I love the name Margot. It's so cute. Oh, well, it wasn't just Jules. Which Jules? No, JS for Justice had been absolutely slamming Shane Carey on a live for a few hours and then had this girl up on her panel who had a loose connection to Heidi and Megan, and the story broke with the cops outside Megan's house while this chick was up on Jay's panel, and then Jay took credit and still to this day does about breaking the case, but the sort of the searching the house and everything broke while she was live, and they were watching the police descending on Megan Firamuska's property. But Jay then went very silent on the fact that for hours prior she'd been absolutely slamming Shane with this woman and implying that he did it. It was a fucking nightmare. You were the same with Tom Maher as well. Never had any bad vibes. You didn't find Shane guilty in the slightest. And you don't have any with Erin, hence waiting for evidence. Aha, I'm catching up. Yes, it is. I think she's so confused, upset, and doesn't know what she's saying. I do too. She is. Yeah, a lot of allegedly innocent is yes. There were a few other channels too, but they were probably the two most prolific anti-Shane Carey channels. Allegedly innocent, isn't it ironic? She came into one of my lives one day and absolutely blasted me. I was talking about Trayvon Martin. Do you guys remember I've got like the fuck apron and it has like fuck moustaches, fuck hipsters, fuck TikTok, fuck all, it's got all that. It's called the fuck apron. And one of them was fuck hoodies. And I always wanted to do a connection with a story, a crime story. And Trayvon Martin, the whole hoodie thing that became a symbol. And I wasn't doing like a live covering every fact of that case. I was just using it as an introduction into my episode about fuck hoodies. And because I didn't go into more detail, she was in there going, and you forgot to mention this and you forgot to mention that. And she was really, and I was like, oh, it was just a bit of a connection to a criminal case. That's what I wanted. It wasn't it wasn't even in the title. It was just that it had become symbolic after his death. And yeah, she was pretty full on with me about it. It's actually quite hard being a YouTuber. It's quite hard. The video that I'm editing at the moment talks about how I think YouTube, you're going into somebody's home. Like when I'm in someone's chat, I act like I would in their home. But I don't think many people on YouTube look at it that way. Yeah, we'll never put you on it. I'll challenge you every time. Samantha will be like, no, I actually need you helping me out you can be my junior counsel. I don't have a feel either way either. In fact, stuff like Grizzly's Live has actually made me feel more empathy for Erin, because if she is innocent, this is just another case that's just gone terribly lopsided on YouTube. And Grizzly's got a lot of people ready to crucify her. And so we'll look at a few more, but there's Lindy Lou's moment in the sun. News is from Adelaide. I've heard nothing about the case for the last week. The only thing I've been hearing on the news is something about the Adelaide Crows missing a goal. The Ferals are seething here. Classic. For those of you who don't know, outside of Australia, AFL, Australian Footy League, Adelaide's got a team called the Crows. They've also got another team called Port Counter Power. And so this is all footy talk. But Elizabeth Roberts is horrified. Really? It's common news releases around the world. Why has Adelaide missed out? Well, they probably don't give a fuck. I don't know why. Adelaide, I lived in Adelaide. They're a bit not in my backyard, don't really care. They're very parochial. And then AHD. And who goes out to pick common fresh mushrooms and dries them unless they're special? Who goes and buys fresh mushrooms, then mixes in dried mushrooms into the same recipe? She actually says in her statement that she rehydrated the dried mushrooms before they went in the recipe. You don't usually just chuck the dried mushroom in. You've got to actually rehydrate it. So I don't know who does that, AHD. More especially, there's people who became deadly sick the night of the meal. Then she went the next day to the hospital. Then in her statement, she fed the leftovers to her kids the following night, but scraped some mushrooms off. No one would ever feed food to their kids after the dinner. Guests have just died from this meal. Well, the guests at this point hadn't just died, and we don't actually know the exact time, except for it potentially being the following day, I think, were the words in the statement, her statement about the kids eating it. But yes, by then there might have been some people in hospital, and that might be a weird thing to do. But did she even know at that point? I don't know. Also, she ground the dried mushrooms and mixed them with fresh. Why? You just buy a bigger bag of fresh mushrooms. You wouldn't use dried mushrooms and mix them with fresh. Is a lot. Wow, that was a lot. That was a bit of a brain frying comment. I don't know if we know that she ground the dried mushrooms. She said she rehydrated them. Where did you get that from? And the beef Wellington recipe, is it still up that I had up earlier? Oh, no, I went on a different tangent and Googled over the top of it. Is that you use different types of mushrooms. That's what gives it its bold flavour. Hey, Bowling with Cotton Balls, how are you? Hi, Red Raven Spirit. Good to see you, Grover. Oh, yeah, I know the Rainy case. Yeah, I kind of, I'll make a note. I have periods of time where I'm like, I'd like to cover this. And then I have periods of time like, oh, is it one that's just going to, I don't know. I think in terms of divided opinions, I think I'd rather keep doing Brittany and Bruce, to be honest. But yeah, it's a fascinating case. I'd be keen to hear your thoughts on that one, Humanimal. We are a long way from finding out the truth. Absolutely. I'm going to have to end this live soon. My throat is getting sore. I've been talking for 3 hours and I need to go to the loo again. So we'll look at a few more comments. But popular opinion, yeah, and popular opinion seems to be burn the witch, doesn't it? All the time. Maybe I watch too much stories about folk being freed from jail. Like 30 years later, can't remember what it's called, but it's American. It's like the Innocence Project. Seems like an awful lot of trouble to go to in regards. Not at all. Not if you've bought your fresh mushies and you've got dried ones in the pantry, because you just rehydrate. They don't take very long, like 10 minutes max. I use a lot of porcini dried mushrooms in my cooking because I love the flavor. But yeah, rehydrating is not that. You put them, it's the first thing you do while you're getting everything else ready. You rehydrate. You just chuck them in a bowl with some hot or warm water and they just boom, and they look like a little mushroom again. But all the grinding and powder stuff, yeah, but I don't think that was ever suggested by anyone in the actual statements. Well, I guess this is what we're going. I think the most likely explanation is the mushrooms because of the symptoms they presented with and the deterioration and the sort of the period of being okay or feeling they were okay and then going downhill again. And they were very quick to say they suspected mushroom poisoning. That was one of the first really sort of juicy, I guess, facts that came out from the cops, like very early on. So I think the specialists at the hospital knew what they were dealing with for sure. Well, that's what it sounds like anyway. By the next day, she would have been seriously worried if she was going to become ill and die. Yeah, I still think Humanimal's theory about the whole Erin presenting part of it's probably, I mean, she might have just had really bad gastro because she was so nervous and anxious too. But because of guilt or innocence, don't know. There's so much to this story we don't know yet. There's so many unanswered questions, but over time we will start to get them. Thank you, Red Raven. It's lovely to have you here. Those 3 hours went like that, right? Now, who's going to edit this and cut it down into like a little 1 hour? Even 1 hour. People aren't even going to watch 1 hour. This is the problem with these long lives. I mean, how many people actually replay this shit for 3 hours? I wouldn't. Would you? Have a chat. It should be. I get distracted too. Does she delete My Girl Waffles? Is she a deleter? Well, what they said very early on was that they believed it was consistent with mushroom poisoning, and I guess that information probably would have come from the hospital, from the specialists that treated the victims. Yeah, the Simon being ill thing certainly threw a spanner in the works for sure. Yeah, I use shiitake as well. All right, a few more comments. Bogan Shaz. Bogan Shaz. Where are you? Why aren't you hanging out with us, Bogan Shaz? It's been overplayed. I only see news when I'm changing the channel, and I've seen it rehashed on every network. News, morning shows, even Chrissy on the radio. Yeah, well, that's all mainstream, and they're having a field day with it, even though the cops have been for quite a while now. Why would she call her the mom she never had when she had a mom for 44 years? Yeah, that's Erin saying how Gail Patterson was like her mum after her mum died died 4 years ago. What? But this is this sort of nitpicking thing. Like just picking every single sentence apart, not taking into account she just had 3 people die. She was the last person to feed them. It's looking like it was the meal that killed them. But let's hang on every single word that comes out of her mouth. Let's just convict her. Oh, look, we've got a local here. Linda Louise. She's a liar. She also said in her written statement she fed the kids the leftovers the following night. That would have been after everyone were admitted to hospital. No one would do that, even if you scraped off the mushroom. I agree with that, but we don't know if she even knew they were in the hospital. Like, I don't know. How do we know that? I mean, would Simon call her and tell her? I don't know. And we don't know what time the kids apparently ate. Why was she not investigated at that time? What time? Huh? What was the initial comment? I don't know. There wasn't one. Debbie, what are you talking about? It's a thread where Lindsay Lou's comment is. Ah, the hospital a few years back. Why wasn't she investigated at the time? She might have been. Don't know. We don't know, Debbie. We can't answer that. The cops might be able to a bit later. They're waiting for the church leader who's still in a coma to wake up so that they can ask him more details. Hopefully he'll come to soon. Her husband was in a coma for 18 days after getting really sick a year earlier. I haven't seen anywhere that Ian's in a coma. I keep wanting to say ADHD whenever I see AHD. Lindsay Hendricks. I remember when my non-true crime girlfriend read me the headline when this first broke, and while we were both initially sketched out and calling BS, I wasn't expecting all this. Glad you're covering it, G. It's wild already. See, G's turned him. Or her. I don't know, Lindsay. Can't tell from photos. They're too tiny. Her or him, Lindsay, could be either or. But, yeah, they weren't initially... Oh, while we were both initially sketched out and calling BS. Anne-Marie Tuttleby. As an Australian, I thought this was so suspicious right from the start. She knew what she was doing. She tried poisoning her ex-husband last year. They're both cooks, so she knew what mushrooms were poisonous. Huh? They're both cooks. Are you in Queensland, Red Raven? Are your animals sleuthin'? Oh, she's very verbal about negativity. Oh. I'm not even talking about the admission to hospital. That's what got Miss Kay and I feuding briefly. I'm not touching it. I'm going to wait for the medical evidence to come out. Didn't know the answer earlier. Still don't. That's true. Her mum was an academic. She may not have been. But she might have also just meant that, you know, since my mum died, she's been my mum. I agree. Either way, her life has changed forever too. It's endlessly fascinating. I agree. I have a hunch she either planned it because the husband was supposed to be there or did it because he cancelled last minute. He didn't cancel last minute. An unnamed friend in a tabloid said last minute. Erin, in her statement, said she knew the day before he wasn't coming. Cement. You bought Grizzly's narrative. Come back. Come back to our side. Come back to the good side. Oh, he was in a coma for 17 days. Okay. I haven't read that anywhere. Are you talking about the ex-husband or Ian Wilkinson? I've not seen that sort of detail in anything I've read. I'm assuming sort of short of direct evidence, the police will choose a path of less resistance and charge her with manslaughter. Could do. I almost feel like the other people were supposed to be collateral damage camouflage and the husband was the real target. She just sounded like she was making up feelings. She didn't speak eloquently for a writer's daughter. Oh, that's a bit harsh. My mother was an A-grade golfer. I wanted to become a golfer and I wanted her to teach me how. And after one day on the course, and not even every hole on the course, my mother looked at me and said, from now on, all I want you to do is be my caddy. Like, it's a bit rough to say she's not eloquent like her writer mother. We don't all inherit the talents of our parentals. Yeah, we know about the ex-husband's coma, but not Ian Wilkinson. And this person in Grizzly's chat knows that Ian's in a coma. Where's it gone? Where's the coma comment gone? That was a way back. Oh, here, up here. And it's that bloody AHD person again. They're waiting for the church leader who is still in a coma to wake up so they can ask him, where did you get that from? And she only wrote that 4 hours ago. Has there been an update on a reputable... Hang on. I doubt it on a Sunday. Unless there's an arrest. Most updates wait till Monday. News. Well, the Daily Mail's put out an article 15 hours ago, inside the mushroom deaths, while cops are in no rush to close their probe into Erin Patterson. I don't want to think about her being probed. That's the most recent thing. No, there's nothing about a coma. Except AHD. Notice how she checks her fingers after wiping eyes, looking for tears. Worst liar ever. We don't know what she's looking for. I didn't see gigantic tears pouring down her face, but bear in mind, on the Friday, Gail and Heather had died. On the Saturday, Don had died. She's interviewed on the Monday. She has probably, when the cops rocked up on the Monday, which was the same day they did their press conference, searched her house, and she did the media thing, it was reported that she was heard to be howling inside the house like a dingo. Like, she's probably been crying nonstop for 3 days, and she's had to tell her kids their grandparents have died, and she's the last person who fed them a meal. Like, well, they may have had meals in hospital, but, that's semantics. Maybe she ran out of tears. And then that's another thing that 9 show. On that, the girl that is sort of putting a body, like a behavioural commentary into this discussion, this sort of roundtable discussion about the case, she actually says that it's a fact that when you are highly stressed, anxious and so on, you can't actually make tears. Like, it's not, well, not that everyone can't, but it's difficult to cry when you're in a heightened state of stress and anxiety, according to the chick on the 9 under investigation show. But again, no one ever looks at things that specialists are saying. They're all like, I didn't see any tears, so she's done it. There's a nice comment from someone who's just sending out positive vibes for Ian Wilkinson. Gabriel's a lobotomy. Gabriel's a blotany. It's all about her. Her over-exaggerated outbursts of sobbing, walks away so boldly when asked where all the mushrooms came from. If she bought at a grocery, you think she'd tell the public where they were bought. This diabolical behaviour appears to be motivated by pure greed. What? She doesn't want to answer the question about the mushrooms to the media, and she doesn't have to. Walks away so boldly. She has told the cops where she bought the mushrooms, not the public, although she has in the statement, but we are not owed anything. And the diabolical behaviour appears to be motivated by pure greed. She has a property portfolio. She is wealthy. What greed be there? Right, any innocent person would try to find the store anyway to prevent more deaths. And maybe they did. We don't know this shit. Like, we don't know very much at all, really. Swizzy, I'm from Melbourne. Love you covering this case. I think a lot of Aussies think this woman needs to be locked up. I hope the time comes soon. A lot of Aussies? Yeah, Lindy Chamberlain. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, well, I don't think she wears makeup. I was offering devil's avocado things. Maybe it's because she can't make tears when she's highly stressed. Maybe she's just run out of tears. When both of my parents died, I reached a point where I had run out of tears for sure. Yeah, well, nobody wants to look like a raccoon. That's true. But she also rubs the top of her eyelids. What does that mean? Because, mascara can get a bit blobby up there too if we're going to play that devil's avocado thing. I don't know. I'm not qualified to analyse this stuff. I'm very reluctant to say anything about this case now. And I'm also going to wrap up this live because I have a bladder that requires my attention. And I also have a beach I want to walk on. It's already 4 o'clock. I'm definitely wrapping up this live. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I have dropped Grizzly's link before, so I feel like I've done my due diligence there. You know that feeling too. Yeah. And did you feel guilty when you ran out of tears? I did. Yeah, I don't rub my eyelids when crying either. Like, it's an odd thing, but yeah, poor cement shoes. But yeah, I know the same. I felt guilty. And even at my mum's funeral, we gave, no one was allowed to wear black. Everyone had to wear colours, which was like the funeral or the memorial I went to on Friday night. Everyone had to wear colours. And Pete's send-off was really wonderful with all of these funny stories about him. He was such a character, and it was so good to be in a room full of people laughing, because at my mum's funeral, my eulogy, I'd given up law and had become a full-time stand-up at that point, and it had a lot of fun stories in it. But even at that, there were people that were a little bit upset that my brother and sister and I were laughing outside when we were chatting to people. They thought that was really tasteless. And it's like, well, it was our mum, and we played Colours of My Life by the Seekers at the end of the funeral, and everyone was invited to wear bright clothing, and it was our mum, and it's what she wanted. She wanted to be remembered with fun and laughter. But also it just felt so nice to actually laugh after being so sad and crying all the time. Like, it was a beautiful thing to have this freedom to let those funny moments actually come back into your world. And that helped me getting through the grieving process more than me crying and running out of tears did. So, but yeah, people are so judgy, right? There was one article, was he bowling with bowling balls? There was one article that sure, run of tears and why sob, why what? But oh gosh, your animal's brutal today. That's just how some people cry. I don't think you can fake that cry that she did going around the side of the car. You try it. We'll reconvene next time and see how everyone's going with the fake crying noises. Because that kind of noise that she makes, I've done that cry before. I don't know if you can fake that. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. One of the articles said that, I think it was one of the ABC or the Guardian maybe, but it said that and they showed different photos, but even the first time the cops, when the cops were going through the house and the media were there as well, like they actually commented on how she had really puffy eyes and you could see she'd been crying. And oh, that was another thing the Daily Mail did. They honed in on her hands and said that they could see scratches or something on her hand. I haven't seen the article or the photos. What? Like, I know that when someone's murdered someone, they often have the defensive wounds, like the person's been able to actually fight back a bit and scratch their hands and necks and whatever. But the Daily Mail were making out that was a sign of guilt. And it's like, but if she deliberately killed them, she baked them a meal and 3 of them died, like, you're zooming in on hands like that she gave a media interview like more than a week later. It's really odd. Well, in our family, we put the fun back into funerals. That's just how we cope. I bawled my eyes out at my mum and dad's funerals as well, but we also had some yummy moments. Hello, Brenda Ellis. If people stop laughing at my funeral, I'm so coming back to haunt them. I've discussed it, and yeah, my concerns with watching that is that they don't have her baseline, and they always talk about the importance of a baseline, and yet they don't have any baseline. They don't know what she's like normally. They don't have any footage of her doing anything, so yeah, I've been told that they're pretty much ready to have her locked up and the key thrown away as well. So yeah, I haven't. I've listened to a tiny bit of it. Grizzly had some on the end of her live that we didn't get to. I will listen to it though out of curiosity, but there's no baseline, man. I turned to stone when they told me my mum had died. I was on the way to the hospital and heard my phone ring again and knew she was gone. I'm sorry. My mum, I knew because I was with her. My dad, though, that was a shock. We woke up and had a very early phone call letting us know he'd died that morning. It's a fascinating story, and we're going to continue covering it as facts come out. Thanks again, everyone. I hope that's kept you entertained for a couple of hours on your, or 3 hours on your Sunday afternoon. I feel that way too. I think your parents leave mum and dad shaped holes in your heart that will never fill over, a bit like our little animals and pets and stuff. You didn't like the take. Yeah, I haven't heard any positives about it, but I might whack it on while I clean the toilet. Unless the glare is live, and then I'll put him on and my toilet will be sparkling in under 3 minutes. Thank you, Brenda. I'd love that. You didn't bum anyone out. That's the beauty of this channel. There's a lot of love in it, and that's why I keep coming back, and I'm grateful that you guys do too. But until next time, guys, look after yourselves. For those in Australia, enjoy the remainder of your Sunday. If the sun is shining where you are, get out and have a little stroll, some fresh air. It'll make you feel good. For those of you that still have a lot of your weekend left, we envy you. Back to work tomorrow. And yeah, I really appreciate all of you being here. And I hope to see you all again very soon. And I've got no way to end this live because I still haven't made an outro. So I'm just going to end it. See you all again very soon. Much love.